and sanitation, whether government has any plans to construct a water reticulation system at Kale Island in Kabinga Chiefdom in Kanchivia parliamentary constituency, and if so, when the plans will be implemented. So those are the 5 questions that are expected to be considered on the floor of the House.
After the question for oral answer segment, we expect continuation of a debate on the motion of thanks to His Excellency the President's address. This is a motion of 13th September. Like we earlier stated, yesterday business was interrupted when Dundumwezi Member of Parliament, Mr. Edgar Singombe, was on the floor of the House, and so we expect him to be given time to continue with his debate to the motion of thanks, and this will be followed by other members of our parliament. Just about now, we'll now take you to the floor of the House as Madam Speaker's procession makes way to the chair.
Honorable members of parliament, Madam Speaker.
Tendency of Zambia, proud and free, land of wealth and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for the right. We want freedom's fight for one, strong and free. Africa is our own motherland, fashioned with and blessed by those who blend. Let us, all our people, join as one, brothers under the sun. Oh, one, strong and free. One land and one nation is our cry. Dignity and peace in Zambia's sky, like a noble eagle in its flight. Zambia, praise to thee, oh one, strong and free. Praise be to God, praise be, bless our great Zambia, Zambia, Zambia. Remain we stand under the flag of our land. Zambia, praise to thee, oh one, strong and free.
Prayer. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Honorable members, I have one announcement to make by way of information. Honorable members, I wish to inform the House that Mrs. Cecilia Enimbewe retired as Clerk of the National Assembly on 9th August 2022. Mr. Roy Ngulube, Deputy Clerk Administration, was appointed to act as Clerk of National Assembly with effect from 9th August 2022 for administrative convenience only. I thank you. May the acting leader of business indicate business of the House for next week?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me acquaint the House with the business to consider next week. Madam, on Tuesday, the 27th of September 2022, the business of the House will begin with questions. This will be followed by presentation of government bills, if there will be any. Thereafter, the House will continue with the debate on the motion of thanks to His Excellency the President's address. Madam Speaker, on Wednesday, 28th September 2022, the business of the House will start with questions. This will be followed by presentation of government bills, if there will be any. Thereafter, the House will consider the private member's motion entitled Extend the Loan Scheme to Students at Private Universities. This will be moved by Mr. C. Kangombe, Member of Parliament for Kamfisa Parliamentary Constituency. The House will then conclude the debate on the motion of thanks to His Excellency the President's address, which was delivered to the House on Friday, 9th September 2022. Madam, on Thursday, 29th September 2022, the business of the House will commence with the debate on the motion to suspend relevant standing orders to enable the House to sit in the afternoon on Friday, 30th September 2022, to allow the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning to present the 2023 national budget. This will be followed by questions. Thereafter, the House will consider presentation of government bills, if there will be any. Madam Speaker, on Friday, 30th September 2022, as already indicated, the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning will present the 2023 national budget starting at 14:15 hours. We urge all members to be punctual. I thank you, Madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I have permitted the Honorable Minister of Tourism to make a ministerial statement. The Honorable Minister of Tourism. Sorry. Oh, sorry. So before we go to the acting leader of government business wants to say something.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I am told I misled the House by saying the schedule for the budget will be on at 15:15. It's supposed to be 14:15 hours on Friday.
I heard 14:15.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
The honorable members wanted to have the Vice President's question time. I have permitted the Honorable Minister of Tourism to make a ministerial statement. The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Madam Speaker, I am grateful for the privilege to stand before the House to deliver a ministerial statement on the recent human-animal conflict incident that occurred in Chama, Kasenengwa, Itehi, and other parts of the country. Let me from the outset state that the loss of human life and property caused by human-wildlife incidents is not only sad, but indeed regrettable. The government would like to take this opportunity to convey its sincere condolences to the families of the deceased. Madam Speaker, my statement will cover information on the incidents which occurred in Chama, Kasenengwa, Itehi, and then give a general impression of the human-animal incidents in other parts of the country. I will conclude my statement, Madam Speaker, by highlighting the measures that have been put in place to mitigate the human-animal conflict. Madam Speaker, I will begin with Chama District. The Department of National Parks and Wildlife, popularly known as ZAWA, received a report through the Tembwe Community Resource Board on 18 September 2022 at 11 hours. The report indicated that a male person by the name of Lafi Zimba, age 75, of Chizikiza village, Chief Tembwe, Chama district, who was coming from fishing on the Luangwa River, was found dead in the bush in Mulondola area away from the villages on Saturday, 17 September 2022 by members of the community. Officers from the Department of National Parks and Wildlife, the Zambia police, and members of the community rushed to the scene and collected the body and took it to Chama District Hospital mortuary. The deceased was put to rest in his home village. Officers from the department are on the ground monitoring the situation, and it is suspected that the victim was trampled by an elephant which was not found on the scene. Madam Speaker, I'll proceed to Kasenengwa. The Department of National Parks and Wildlife received the last report on human-wildlife conflict from Kasenengwa in June 2022. The incident involved a buffalo that was posing a threat on human life, which was attended to by the Department of National Parks and Wildlife Chipata office. The department is not in receipt of any other incident on the same. Madam Speaker, I will now proceed to Itehi district. Madam Speaker, a report was received from the community members that male person, Francis Mulilo, aged 57, of Chief Kaingu, was heard crying for help by two women who were going to draw water from the Kafue River on 16 September 2022, around 16 hours. Rescuers found him lying in a pool of blood and suspected to have been attacked by a hippo. The victim was rushed to Itehi Hospital and later evacuated to UTH for further medical attention. General perspective of human-wildlife conflict in other parts of the country. Madam Speaker, the human-wildlife conflict situation in Zambia has become a matter of great concern lately and seems to be on the increase in comparison to the situation in the previous years. From January 2022 to date, the Ministry of Tourism, through the Department of National Parks and Wildlife, has received a total of 6,068 problem animal reports, ranging from injury and loss of human lives to destruction of property, food, and in some instances, killing livestock. The problem of human-wildlife conflict is common in all provinces in Zambia, but prevalent in Muchinga, Southern, Western, Lusaka, Central, Eastern, and Luapula provinces. The increase in human-wildlife conflict which is currently being experienced is largely attributed to the expansion of human settlements in protected areas through encroachment, blockage of wildlife corridors, introduction of livestock in game management areas and increase in wildlife in some protected areas. The bad practice such as timber logging, charcoal burning, and unsustainable land use in game management areas is affecting foliage, which is food for wildlife, especially elephants. As such, elephants are forced to wander into nearby villages in search of food and in the process cause human-wildlife conflicts. Therefore, the long-term solution is to educate our people as we introduce the program for alternative livelihoods in the affected communities. In addition, Madam Speaker, where logging is permitted, government will ensure that it is done in a manner that does not adversely affect the ecosystem and forest foliage and trees which the animals will survive on. Madam Speaker, for other species such as lions and leopards, which could be wandering around trying to find safe haven away from the dominant male species, our officers from the Department of National Parks and Wildlife will continue to monitor reported incidents so as to avert any damage of human life and property. Madam Speaker, to put things in perspective, out of the 6,068 reports received, a total of 5,600 reports were attended to. Some of the reports were not attended to due to the delay in reporting by complainants, inadequate manpower, and transport. However, the Department of National Parks and Wildlife has deployed officers on the ground, including community scouts, to attend to the recent reports received from Chama, Kasenengwa, Itehitei, Luangwa, and Isoka districts. Regrettably, Madam Speaker, a total of 59 people have been killed by problem animals countrywide, especially by elephants, hippos, and crocodiles, whilst the number of people injured by the problem animals still stands at 18. The number of livestock killed caught by problem animals stands at 83, and a total of 86 problem animals controlled have since been, a total of 86 problem animals have since been controlled in the first and second quarter of 2022. The Department of National Parks and Wildlife has employed various human-wildlife conflict interventions or mitigations measures to include sensitization of communities living in wildlife areas such as fencing of fields, scaring of animals, and in extreme cases resorted to controlling or killing animals responsible for causing the injury or loss of human life. Madam Speaker, human-wildlife conflict remains one of the most challenging conservation issues not only in Zambia, but across the sub-region. The Ministry of Tourism will be exploring long-term measures aimed at reducing incidents or mitigating conflicts, which include, but not limited to, the following. Number one, improving law enforcement and wildlife habitat protection. In this regard, my ministry is actively engaging the Civil Service Commission so as to expedite the recruitment and the deployment of 340 wildlife police officers. The Ministry of Finance and National Planning has already granted Treasury Authority to employ the wildlife police officers. Improving community-based wildlife management across the country. In this respect, Madam Speaker, my ministry advertised to engage honorary wildlife police officers from members of the general public, including, Madam Speaker, members of parliament in constituencies with GMAs. All this is in an effort to effectively involve communities, including MPs, in the management of the communities in the management of human-wildlife conflicts across the country. So far, Madam Speaker, 91 applications have been received. We are yet to determine the number of MPs that have applied to be honorary wildlife police officers. Number three, strengthening planning and developing implementation general management plans and tourism development area plans. This will ensure that human activity in protected areas is undertaken in a manner which mitigates human-wildlife conflict. Number four, improving the policy and legislative landscape to provide the necessary anchor for sustainable wildlife management. Madam Speaker, further, at the strategic level, government has continued to promote consistency in the development and implementation of general management plans. The GMPs, as we like to call them, sets forth basic management and development philosophy for the protected areas and provides land use strategies for addressing problems to achieving identified management objectives over a set period of time. This is key to preventing trespassing and encroachment of all kinds. Madam Speaker, in order for us to have active early warning systems, government has continued to conduct regular monitoring of animal population and movement coupled with early notification of communities and control to ensure animal densities stay within their recommended stocking rates. For effectiveness, the use of GPS satellite collars and aerial surveillance for animal tracking will need to be scaled up. Madam Speaker, before I conclude, I would like to bring to your attention that there are a number of GMAs dealing in carbon trading across the country. These include Rufunsa GMA in Rufunsa District, West Petauke GMA in Nyimba District and Petauke District, Sandwe GMA in Musanzala and Petauke District, Lupande GMA in Mambwe District and Lumimba GMA in Lumezi District. Madam Speaker, substantial revenues are being realized from carbon trading in these particular areas. Hence, it is the Ministry's view that such revenues should be channeled towards mitigating human-wildlife conflict, including resettling affected communities so as to enable them engage in alternative livelihoods. We are confident that the implementation of these integrated approaches to combat human-wildlife conflict will go a long way in preserving the life and safeguarding crop and domestic animals. These measures will result in a peaceful coexistence of human and wildlife in one place. Madam Speaker, the Department of National Parks and Wildlife remains indefatigable in ensuring that human-wildlife conflict incidences are kept to the barest minimum. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members are now free to ask questions on points of clarification on the ministerial statement given by the Honorable Minister of Tourism. The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. And we appreciate the Honorable Minister's ministerial statement, which is timely. In your statement, Honorable Minister, you have informed the House and through the House, the nation, that you are recruiting wildlife police officers to help you deal with this perennial problem of animal-human conflict. Looking at this number of cases which you have cited in your statistics, what interim measures are you putting in place in order to curb these escalating incidents that are occurring on everyday basis, as you have heard from the members of parliament? What interim measures? Because if you don't put in interim measures until such a time when you recruit police officers, we may end up with a scenario which is we should avoid, because people now are looking at government as if you are prioritizing animals over human beings. This is a very critical matter, and we need urgent solutions. What interim measures are you putting in place in order to safeguard the lives of our people who are living near the GMS? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much, Honorable Member of Parliament for Shiwangandu, for that very important question. Indeed, from my statement, I did make mention of the recruitment of wildlife police officers, which we are actively pursuing, and it should be done before the end of the year. But to respond to your question regarding to the agency of the matter, and that's the reason why my ministry took it seriously to employ what I'd like to call honorary wildlife police officers. Now, for the purpose of the House, the Honorary Wildlife Police officers are not indeed employees of the ministry, but they are just volunteers. And that's the reason why we are targeting you, the Honorable Members of Parliament, in those GMAs to be part of the conservation, to be part of the team that will assist the Department of National Parks and Wildlife to protect our citizens. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Mufumbwe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank the Honorable Minister for the statement that he has given. Through you, Madam Speaker, from the retro experience that we have, some of us that grew up near these game reserves, most of the time is the issue of the overpopulation of especially elephants. Like in Mufumbwe, that is the problem that we had. And one of the measures that was applied those days is actually cropping. I want to find out from the minister whether maybe the number for the wildlife has overgrown, and that is one of the reasons why they are even killing human beings. If so, don't you think this is one way we can try to minimize the conflict?
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much for that timely question, Honorable MP for Mufumbwe. Indeed, I can confirm with you that the population of elephants within the region has increased over the years. Some of them are coming back to Zambia owing to the fact that the UPND is in government. But in any case, Madam Speaker, we are in discussions with our colleagues across the region, and this region I'm talking about is in the Kaza region, which is popularly known as the range states. This Kaza involves Zambia, Zimbabwe, Angola, Namibia. And the discussion that we're having within the region, Madam Speaker, is to first, before we get into cropping these particular elephants, is to first ascertain the number of elephants that are within the region. By virtue of these elephants being migratory, it is very difficult for Zambia to make a unilateral decision of cropping, but this decision of cropping will have to be done, obviously, as member states within the Kaza region. And that is an issue that is actively on our radar, and within a shortest possible time, most likely within the year, we should be able to come back to the House to advise the nation how many of the elephants are going to be cropped after having made a decision through the Kaza Secretariat. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Feira.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Indeed, there is an impression created out there that the UPND government actually favors animals to the detriment of human life. I want the minister to confirm what is the position between human beings and human life and wildlife. Which one is more important to you as a government? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Honorable MP for Feira, I think it's a no-brainer that the government of the United Party for National Development, in its fabric, does value human life more than an animal. So I'm not sure how one would actually suggest that we favor animals as opposed to humans, when actually humans are the ones who elected us to run this government. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Please remember the homework. Standing Order 204. The Honorable Member for Mulobezi.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I just want to find out from the Honorable Minister whether there are plans to compensate the people who have lost through this animal conflict, and when is that compensation going to be done? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that question, Honorable MP. Our current dispensation does not have any compensation law per se on human-wildlife conflict. However, as government and Ministry of Tourism are not sitting idle, we already have a team from my Department of National Parks and Wildlife who are doing a baseline study within the region with regards to what is obtaining in the region in terms of compensation. And we have gone further, Madam Speaker, to engage under the Vice President's office, under the Disaster Management and Mitigating Unit, to see how we could create legislation that will speak to compensation with regards to human-wildlife conflict. There are a number of issues that needs to be interrogated, and obviously, first things first is looking at Treasury. Do we have enough of resources to compensate? And also, avenues on how we are going to identify those people who are legally or who will be legally be compensated in the event of human-wildlife conflict. That is indeed on our cards, and we will definitely get back to you as soon as we conclude. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chilubi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Minister has indicated in his statement that on one hand, there is human encroachment in game management areas or vis-a-vis the game parks. On the other hand, the animals are going into human settlement. How does government, especially that he has confirmed that the UPND government respect human beings than animals, how does government intend to create a balance between the two poles in terms of population increase between that of human beings as well as that of animals? Do they intend possibly, for instance, maybe to clarify my question, do they intend to degazette such areas where human population has increased, or maybe depopulate the population of animals and take them somewhere else so that they provide space for human beings? I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable MP for Chilubi, for that question. I will attempt to answer your question in this manner. Number one, if you paid attention to my ministerial statement, the one reason why these animals are leaving their habitat into the villages is purely because our citizens have incessantly cut down trees in that natural habitat. A classic case is that of Chama in North Luangwa, where we have seen incredible logging in that particular area. So these elephants like to eat from the trees, but if there are no trees in those GMAs, they'll definitely go to the areas where people are living. So please, honorable members of parliament in North Luangwa, encourage your people to stop logging. Then number two, in terms of degazetting, no, honorable member of parliament, government is not considering degazetting any GMA. But however, like I mentioned in the ministerial statement, we have other avenues of which money can be made. We have records, Madam Speaker, of a lot of money that is being given in these particular GMAs, but they seem not to be cascaded to the very communities that they need to be given. So my ministry is in a process of doing an extensive audit, especially in the GMAs which are collecting carbon. We have heard certain, or is it on record, and it's factual, that certain GMAs are collecting in excess of 10 million every year on carbon trading, but we're not seeing where that money is going. And that is the reason why we want to move in and make sure that that 10 million kwacha that is received in those GMAs goes to equip those communities so that they find other alternative sources of livelihood rather than growing crops. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Katombora.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much, Honourable Minister, for the ministerial statement. Mine is to find out, because in my constituency, on average, I lose 2-3 people in Mukuni area every year from these, particularly the elephants. Does this government have any plans to fence, like what Serengeti, the Serengeti National Park has done in Kenya? Thank you very much.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that question, Honourable Member of Parliament for Katombora, my Siamese twin. And unfortunately, the Minister of Tourism is not considering fencing any of these particular GMS. What we want to be seeing in most of these GMS is a free flow of these animals from one end to the other, obviously looking for water and indeed food, some of them for hunting. However, we want to keep our national parks as pristine as we possibly can. The examples that you may have cited, Honourable Member of Parliament, of certain countries I will not rename, have become like a theme park. And as such, that is how we're going to differentiate our wildlife in the region with respect to having a park that will be able to have wild animals rather than being in a fenced area and being looked like it's a zoo. What we have in Zambia is pristine and is a national park, not a theme park. So we are very, very much careful about having to fence off any area around it. The only fencing that we can allow, Madam Speaker, is for individuals who can create game parks, or rather what we call game farms. And I know a number of honourable members of Parliament in here who have game farms. I will not name them, but I think it's something that we'd like to encourage so that we'll be able to get some of those animals in the park to put them in their game farms. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable members, stop the clock. When I said there is marking, it's actually serious. We are doing a continuous assessment. As you may be aware, there is an award under the Interparliamentary Union for the most inspiring member of parliament. So as you conduct yourself, just be aware that there is that consideration. The Honorable Member for Chama North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Indeed, man-animal conflict has been on the rise, both in Chama North and in Chama South, and also in all game management areas throughout the country. And we have lost a lot of people and crops. Madam Speaker, there is that perception from the local communities that the Department of Wildlife has not been responding promptly when cases of man-animal conflict have been reported. But whereby they hear a story that someone has killed an animal, they respond at the speed of lightning, which is quite very, very unfortunate. Now, the minister has indicated that they will employ 340 wildlife officers. We are happy with that, Honorable Minister, but I think the concern from the people of Chama is that the people who have been helping the wildlife officers are volunteers. And these volunteers may not have grade 12 certificates or 5 O levels. What are you doing to ensure that even those who don't have grade 12 school certificates are considered? Because some have been working for more than 15 years. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that question, Honourable Member of Parliament for Chama. Indeed, we are going to recruit wildlife police officers before the end of the year, like I mentioned in the ministerial statement. And further on, Madam Speaker, I just want to put it on record that our preference in terms of the recruitment would be to give preference rather to those who have been working as community scouts in those particular regions where we're going to employ from, purely because it will save us a lot of time in terms of training to get new people from one end to the other. But that doesn't mean that we are also going to recruit other people who are not part of the community scouts, in the sense that along the way. And what we have discovered, Madam Speaker, in the department is that a number of our wildlife police officers have reached an advanced age and are due for retirement. So that in itself will create more opportunities for people for promotions, as well as more space for other people to be employed. Now, to answer your question regarding qualification, that is something that will have to be guided, obviously, by PSMD on how we can waive certain qualifications for those people on account of experience. And I think it's something that can be discussed. And I'd like to use this opportunity, Madam Speaker, to encourage your members under the Zambia Parliamentary Conservation Caucus to be very agile with respect to us having to employ these people. We have deliberately singled out ZPCC in this House, Madam Speaker, to make sure that as we get to start employing our wildlife police officers, the members of ZPCC are also spearheading conservation within those protected areas that seem to be a bit of a challenge at the moment. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I've added 5 minutes. The Honorable Member for Sanitation.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and thank you so much, Minister, for the assurances on how we are going to manage the challenges we are facing in our communities. My question will be around the village scouts. I just want to be educated, Minister, what are the boundaries for the village scouts? Are they supposed to go in the national parks, or they are just supposed to be around protecting the people in the community? And if they go in the national park, should a scout be killed? Do they qualify to be compensated? Because the contract that I have with one of them here, it shows that there is no provision for any compensation. They are just supposed to be working around the community. They are not supposed to go in the national parks. I would want that kind of clarity. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. And I'd like to thank Honorable Member of Parliament for Itehi for that particular question, and probably use this opportunity to enlighten the House that the village scouts are not employees or are not recruited by the Minister of Tourism via the Department of National Parks and Wildlife. The village scouts are recruited under the community resource boards in those respective GMAs that we have. So the contract between the village scout and the CRB is what is legal, unlike what has been perceived where people feel that the Department of National Parks and Wildlife actually employs the village scouts. The only thing that the village scouts, the Department of National Parks and Wildlife does is to facilitate for training for those particular village scouts that are brought to our attention to be trained. You will agree with me that wildlife management is a very specialized skill. So we need to train you how to handle firearm. We need to train you how to run away from a lion, a leopard, an elephant, even a warthog, and a hippo as well. So it's very important that my team trains those village scouts. And in terms of compensation, I may not be privy to the details of the contracts that the village scouts and the CRB sign, but we will be able to superintend over the training of those particular village scouts. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chitambo.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Minister, you have said, honorary members of Parliament, you brought forms and we filled in those forms. Madam Speaker, from the time that we filled in forms, the minister has gone quiet. Kindly explain to us, who are very much interested to doing this work, when you are going to do the training. Put a clear roadmap so that we know, because these things are happening every day. I don't want to bring in issues of Chitambo here in Kasanka, where people are exchanging, fights with elephants every day. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that question, Honorable Member of Parliament for Chitambo. Madam Speaker, I just want to make mention that just 3 days ago, is it 2 days ago, Honorable Tamba and I were in Chitambo district to just check on development going on in that area. And it wasn't really pleasing what we found there. But in any case, we will support the area member of parliament for Chitambo to see that Kasanka National Park and indeed the GMA around it will be supported. Now, Madam Speaker, to answer his question regarding when they will be given a roadmap, Madam Speaker, my office has actually indicated and formally written to the Zambia Parliamentary Caucus for a meeting with the ministry so that they come and get oriented on how to become a honorary wildlife police officers. We have received 91 applications so far, and as at the 5th, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the date of this big meeting is on the 5th of October, where I am going to meet all the parliamentarians who have opted to join this noble cause of conservation, wildlife conservation, to be oriented. And yes, Madam Speaker, we will give them uniforms. We will also give them firearms. And we're just hoping that that firearm that we're going to give them will not be used for other illegal issues that might be want. So, Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, there is a point of order. Honorable Member for Chiengi. What's the point of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Sorry, I forgot my tablet at home. That's why I used the Bosch system. Madam Speaker, is the Minister of Tourism in order to mention that he's going to give firearms to those who want to be honorary, yes, or to the members of parliament without checking their mental status? I would like to know, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order, order. Is the honorable member for Chiengi suggesting that there are honorable members who need to be checked? I'm sure there is a procedure that will be followed. Well, the only worry is I hope we are not substituting poachers. So there will be a procedure that will be followed. And I believe Honorable Member for Chitambo was complaining that you visited his constituency, but you did not invite him. Please, next time when you do, invite members of parliament so they become part and parcel of the process. Order, let's make progress. Honorable members, I've also permitted the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security to make a ministerial statement. The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Madam Speaker, let me thank you for giving me the opportunity to make a ministerial statement on the matter of urgent public importance raised by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Chama South, Davison Mungandu, regarding the political violence allegedly perpetrated by political party cadres before, during, and after the Luangwa Council Chairperson by-elections. Madam Speaker, let me begin by reiterating that the position of the New Dawn administration on violence has remained the same and will not change. The New Dawn administration, under the leadership of His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, President of the Republic of Zambia, abhors violence, regardless of the source and form. Violence is a vice which should be condemned by all peace-loving Zambians. Through violence, properties are destroyed, innocent lives are lost, and citizens are robbed of an opportunity to enjoy freedoms and liberties. Madam Speaker, government has noted with great concern that during the just ended by-elections in Luangwa, cases of violence allegedly instigated by political party cadres were recorded in some parts of the district. Let me address the specific instances of violence recorded in Luangwa district during the recently held local government by-elections. Madam Speaker, on Wednesday, 14th September 2022, the night before the day of the council by-elections, Luangwa Police Station received a report of malicious damage to property from the United Party for National Development District Youth Chairperson, in which suspected Socialist Party cadres maliciously damaged the Ford Ranger motor vehicle registration number BAA 2217. The damage was estimated at 55,000 kwacha. The incident occurred on Wednesday, 14th September 2022 at around 21 hours in Mpwazi Ward in Luangwa district. The brief facts of the matter are that suspected Socialist Party cadres were using a Land Cruiser registration number AOT 3929 and Toyota Prado registration number AJD 8777 maliciously damaged the Ford Ranger motor vehicle registration number BAA 2217. The police instituted investigations and have since arrested 6 suspects and impounded the 2 motor vehicles allegedly used by the suspects. The suspects have all been charged for the offense of causing malicious damage to property and placed on police bond. They will appear in court soon. On Thursday, Madam Speaker, 15 September 2022, Luangwa Police Station received reports of assault occasioning actual bodily harm and malicious damage to property from Honorable Emmanuel Tembo, Member of Parliament for Feira constituency, who reported that suspected UPND cadres had assaulted him using fists and iron bar, causing him to sustain a panic neck, headache, and general body pains. Honorable Tembo also reported that the same suspected UPND cadres maliciously damaged 2 windows of his motor vehicle valued at 20,000 kwacha. The instances occurred on Thursday, 15 September 2022, around 14 hours at Limbikan village in Katondwe in Luangwa district. The Zambia Police Service has since instituted investigations into the matter, but no arrests have been made so far. Madam Speaker, in another incident, on Friday, 16 September 2022, Luangwa Police Station received the report of endangering life of a person traveling on a motor vehicle in which a female victim, aged 19 years, of Soweto compound in Luangwa district, reported that she sustained a cut on the head after she was hit with a stone whilst on board a moving vehicle. The incident occurred on Friday, 16 September 2022, around 18:30 hours along Great East Road. The brief facts are that the victim, who is a Patriotic Front sympathizer, was on a moving lorry celebrating the election victory with other PF members when suspected UPND cadres from a Toyota minibus started throwing stones at them at Luangwa Secondary School. One stone hit the victim on the head, causing her to sustain a cut on the head. The Zambia Police Service has since instituted investigations into the matter, but no arrests have been made. Madam Speaker, we all know that since independence, Zambia has enjoyed peace and tranquility. Our country has never had a civil war and is viewed as a beacon of peace on the continent of Africa. Zambia has avoided the kind of political violence that has inundated many countries in Africa. Madam Speaker, the safety and security of all citizens across the country is a priority for the New Dawn administration, and all forms of violence cannot be condoned. And we shall ensure that we continue exploring all avenues to ensure that there is good governance. Without peace and order being a precondition for national development, our social, economic, and political ambitions would become elusive and impossible to accomplish. The peace that Zambia is enjoying cannot be taken for granted. Madam Speaker, to prevent political violence, especially before, during, and after elections, the Zambia Police Service is implementing the following measures. One, encouraging interest groups and political parties to participate in the Electoral Conflict Management Committee meetings. Two, enhancing cooperation and understanding among members of the public, leaders of political parties, as well as their party cadres. Three, enhancing crowd management control, particularly during by-elections. Four, discouraging political parties from ferrying cadres to areas where there are by-elections. Five, engaging and encouraging stakeholders on the importance of unity regardless of political, religious, and ethnic grouping to avoid loss of life and damage to property. And six, sensitizing the general public on the importance of upholding law and order. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, let me remind all political party players that the democracy Zambia is enjoying today comes with a high sense of responsibility prescribed in our statutes. It is therefore important that individuals, various interest groups, and political parties are peaceful, tolerant to different opinions, and above all, respect the rule of law. The bedrock of democracy is the competition of different ideologies, but not physical confrontation. I urge all political players to compete on ideas to contribute towards the development of our beloved country. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members are now free to ask questions on points of clarification on the ministerial statement given by the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security. The Honorable Member for Lunte.
Madam Speaker, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to interact with the Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security, I'd like to appreciate you for that statement. And obviously, I like your tone. And I think that your government needs to be supported to maintain peace in this, our beloved country. Honorable Minister, you may recall that when your colleagues, the Patriotic Front Party, were in government, every violent activity, every whether it was political or otherwise, the Patriotic Front leadership was blamed for causing the violence. And President Edgar Lungu then was cast in bad light. Now, if it is indeed true that leadership is to blame for political violence, given the number of violent activities you have highlighted in only one by-election, to what extent do you blame the UPND government, its leadership, for failing to maintain peace in the Luangwa mayoral by-election? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Unlike the PF government, at the time when they are managing the affairs of the nation, where they are allowed with impunity NATO forces, American forces, and the forces that have descriptions of anarchy in this country, we, as UPND, have not condoned such vices. You may have noted from the time we assumed authority, a number of our cadres who were accused of being violent have been caged, and they are serving sentences in courts of law. Unlike during the days of the PF, members of the public were being maimed with impunity, and the perpetrators were being allowed even to feature on ZNBC to threaten individuals, and nothing was done. But for us, we have taken the lead. And here it is, on the floor of this House, I've mentioned, without being shy, that there are allegations that our members were involved in violence in Luangwa. Unlike in the past, you would not have done that. You would have been accusing the victims that they were the ones who were perpetrating violence. So we are not doing that. I'm not going to blame the UPND government because we have taken measures to ensure that peace and tranquility remains. Madam Speaker, I would like to mention that prior to these isolated incidences in Luangwa, the entire period of campaigns in Luangwa were peaceful. They were peaceful. The whole trend of violence were occasioned by the first attacks on the UPND, as I indicated. And then there was a chain reaction, which we should not allow to happen. No, I have indicated.
Honorable
Madam
Member
Speaker,
for
thank you.
Matero, do we need to repeat ourselves? Please comply with the Standing Order 204. You can't debate while you are seated. The Honorable Member for Shuangando.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to pose a question to the Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, I stand here as your predecessor, and I will say that if there's one issue that goes in my regret box, that's one matter. And you recall that I had to reduce myself to come to your secretariat, to come and have a cup of coffee with the youths. And they had to come to...
Order, honorable members, please. What I've said about Standing Order 204 applies to both sides, right and left. Let's comply. May the honorable member continue.
And we had those exchange visits between the two parties to try and deal with these matters of violence. And I will share with you that if there's an area I would have done more, this is one area. The measures you have spoken to are measures I spoke to here. And this is a matter that doesn't require blame game, Honorable Minister. The report we had, and the report you should have, was that the first incident of violence was an attack on the Socialist Party, whose vehicle, BAB 43 rather, was damaged in the night. And the following day, there was a retaliation from the Socialist Party on the UPND camp. But But like I've said, Honorable Minister, this is a matter that doesn't require a blame game. We have seen a group of youths from your party who are gathering. If you go to the platforms and
Honorable Member for Shiwangandu, please ask your question. This is not time to rebut what the Honorable
it's not rebutting, Madam Speaker. I've had the privilege to serve in his office, and when I'm saying these
Honorable
things,
Minister, Honorable Member
I want
for
us to find a lasting solution.
Order, 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 order. If the Honorable Member for Shiwangandu is serious about bringing a lasting solution to this matter, he should engage the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs than to try to rebut what the Minister was saying. This is a time when we are asking points of clarification, not to debate. So may the Honorable Member for Shiwangandu, who is supposed to be sitting now, as I'm talking, now ask a point of clarification. May the Honorable Member continue.
Honorable Minister, we had similar incidents reported when the campaigns began in Dola. What measures are you putting in place to ensure that the incidents we recorded in Luangwa do not replicate themselves in the two pending by-elections on the Copper Belt? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Member of Parliament for Shiwangandu. You heard me very clearly that as a party in government, we do not condone violence of any nature. And I did mention that we will not allow violence during and after or even before elections. And we shall ensure that there is no violence on the core belt when we have the by-elections in Kwacha and Kabushi. I will further request that all the players in those particular by-elections cooperate and ensure that there is no violence. There is a benefit on the part of the country if there are no violence in all the by-elections. As I indicated, in the previous by-elections, we lost lives, property is destroyed, and we will not want that to continue. We will not want violence to tarnish the good image of the country. It is the responsibility of all of us here to ensure that we cage our cadres, that they do not engage in violence. And I did mention that as a party in government, we have gone not just by merely making pronouncements, but we have caged some of our own members who have been involved in violence. I also want to state, Madam Speaker, that political party cadres mutate. Those who were in PF, who were causing violence during your reign, have now changed color. They have joined us. And there are some of those who are causing unwarranted, disturbances in the party. Some have moved. You have noted that, even the Socialist Party was involved in violence in Rwanda. It's because your numbers are dwindling. They are joining, the Socialist Party, and they are causing violence in that political party. So we should all be responsible and ensure that there's no violence in these by-elections.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Mufumbwe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank the Minister for that statement. Through you, Madam Speaker, sometimes I tend to wonder, the honorable members in this honorable House, when you are here, we argue and we differ, but at no time we tend to fight. Honorable Minister, don't you think that this House, with the honorable members, need to do more so that at least we talk to our cadres? Because these cadres, they belong to us and our constituencies. And what measures, just on that one, what measures are you going to put in place to make sure that these cadres who move from certain areas to go to those areas where the by-elections
are being done are controlled by the members of parliament. I feel that members of parliament have a lot to do as well.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you, Honorable Member of Parliament for Mfumbwe, for those comments. Madam Speaker, I also want to state that one of the major contributing factors pertaining to violence in our political parties is a failure on the part of political parties to instill discipline in their members. I can assure you, Madam Speaker, that very few members of parliament here can control their cadres. Very few. If we do not control the cadres, Madam Speaker, we will reach a situation where the cadres will reign supreme and they will wreak havoc in this country. Indiscipline is very rife in a number of political parties. It is therefore incumbent upon the political party leadership to instill discipline. It's not unusual, Madam Speaker, where you hear a leader of a political party make a pronouncement pertaining to the indiscipline in a political party, the cadres will rise against that political party leader. That is very common. Unless we do something about it, we will lose control. I agree we need to do something more. I hope that all of us have agreed that we have a responsibility to ensure that there is discipline in our political party ranks. I do recall at one time, without embarrassing my colleague, the former Minister of Home Affairs, he made a statement condemning violence. An hour later, his party cadres had a press briefing. Imagine. And they condemned him. And they made pronouncements that they will ensure that his life will be made difficult. And it happened. They made his life difficult. That's the discipline we are talking about, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Chiengi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, I don't know if it was in court, I was going to say without prejudice. You've done well, just like your predecessor. You are, when it comes to your work, you're non-partisan. Well done. However, you've just spoken about when a political leader makes a statement. Recently, one of your leaders made a political statement on the Copper Belt will unleash violence on Bowman if he comes to stand. The Zambians would like to know, what is your stance as a Minister of Home Affairs on that statement? I thank you.
Now the Honorable Minister will have to repeat himself. The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Madam Speaker, I did indicate that as a government, we are above violence. And we shall not condone anyone who will be condoning violence in any form in this country. Whether you are a leader in government or you are a party leader, we shall not allow. And that is the statement I've made. For the specific comment that she has raised, I'm not aware.
The Honorable Member for Kantanshi.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Indeed, in the 21st century, we cannot have behaviors of violence and threatening economic development and foreign direct investment. But, Honorable Minister, the issue of violence always occurs in these by-elections. And you have outlined measures that the government has taken in the last 1 year, and indeed we have seen improvements. But how come at the point of this violence, when it's starting to be planned, or because they don't just wake up these cadres and start doing all those things that cause this violence, how well equipped is your ministry to identify when these thoughts and plans are starting to take place so that we totally avoid this violence, which, as I've said, has the potential of sending our investors and causing our economy not to grow. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as I indicated earlier, the police alone cannot manage to control violence before, during, and after by-elections. It is the responsibility of all of us as leaders to ensure that there is peace and tranquility before, during, and after by-elections. Further, Madam Speaker, the police have no capacity at the moment to monitor all areas where there are by-elections due to limited resources which they have. You do recall that on a number of occasions, I have made pronouncements on the floor of this House that please support us to ensure that we buy vehicles for all constituencies so that the police are enabled to police not just by-elections, but the general situations that obtain in our constituencies. Once we have the requisite resources, we shall ensure that we monitor criminal elements and activities in the constituencies and in all the areas of our jurisdiction. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chama South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, I observed, I was in Ilongwa, Madam Speaker, that if violence is unleashed, you automatically lose that election. And I want to tell you, through you, Madam Speaker, that maybe 80% YPF lost the general election is attributed to violence. It's unfortunate that you want to take that route. I want to advise you to stop the violence immediately.
Honorable
My point of
Member
clarification.
For Chama South, point of clarification.
My point of clarification. Honorable Minister, the people who were involved in violence in Rwangwa are those that came from Lusaka. And they are well-known individuals. People reported them at Rwangwa police. When are you concluding those investigations so that your party members who were involved are arrested? That is the only way the people will see the difference. I submit, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there are no UPND party cadres who were involved. Only those who were alleged to be UPND party members. There's a difference. There was a report that was made alleging that UPND party members were involved. It has not been proved. So, even in my report, I'm not saying Socialist Party or PF were involved. I'm saying alleged Socialist Party members were involved. Because it hasn't been proved in a court of law. So I cannot stand here and say UPND members were involved. And I did mention that cadres mutate. And you know that in these by-elections, if you want to cause violence, if you are UPND, you wear PF. If you are PF, you wear UPND. So that is the other political party that is blamed. In this case, there's no proof that UPND was involved. There's no proof that the Socialist Party was involved. There are only allegations. Even those, the individuals you are mentioning, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know. This is the official report I'm giving. If there are members of the public who have got specific names and allegations,
they should report the matters to the police. But as far as I'm concerned, there hasn't been any report of named individuals being involved in the violence in Rwangwa, apart from the allegations that have been made.
Thank you. I'm adding 5 more minutes, but honorable members, please let's not repeat the questions. Let's be precise to the point, asking the points of clarification. The honorable member from Babala.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security for the wonderful statement. Honorable Minister, the UPND has upped the game on ensuring democracy, diversity, and tolerance in this country, as witnessed by the various tours of His Excellency, where he's even posing with the PF cadres and nothing happens to them. And we saw in Kabushi, taking a comparative analysis, in Kabushi, it was all peaceful, there was no
Honorable
violence.
member, be precise to the point. You are taking almost 1 minute to ask. Please.
Madam Speaker, my question is, following the admission by Honorable Mungando here about the violence of PF, could the Home Affairs Minister confirm that the absence, the presence of PF in Rwangwa was the cause of this violence? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Well, Madam Speaker, I will not confirm that. All what I can say is that PF were participants in the elections. If they participated in the violence, I would not confirm that.
Thank you. Honorable Member for Lunte, you have a point of order. What's the point of order? We wanted to give honorable members as much time as possible to ask questions. You've asked your questions, so we'll deal away with your point of order. I'm sure it's something that we can live with. The honorable member for Pambashe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, you clearly stated that the police moved swiftly and arrested the alleged Socialist Party. But why are the police dragging their feet to arrest the alleged UPND member? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
The police have not arrested any alleged UPND members because they were not identified. And that's why we are still investigating.
The Honorable Member for Kabwata.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving the good people of Kawata a chance to ask a question. Madam Speaker, as I stand here, I can testify that I was a victim of violence in 2016. I was almost killed by the PF thugs that came and attacked our camp right in Kawata. Madam Speaker, I just wanted to find out through you to the Minister whether he's in a position to give us the statistics of how many people could have been injured during the violence that happened between the period of 2016 and 2021, and the people that could have died due to the political violence that was perpetrated around that time. Thank you.
That question is too wide. I don't think the Honorable Minister will be in a position to answer the question. You can put a specific question in that regard. The Honorable Member for Matero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You're very kind. Honorable Minister, your statement was good. The truth, Honorable Minister, is it was a Boko Haram situation. I'm a survivor there. There were 3 vehicles, 4x4, with tints and no number plate, and in the back youths, and they were driving around. We had to park our cars to use taxis.
Point of clarification, Honorable Member.
And on my way back, these vehicles, we saw them with GRZ. The question of clarification, as a survivor in Matero, I was stabbed. It's just that I can't put myself as evidence on the table. I have a big cut behind. The people who were arrested, they went to court once and the matter has died a natural death a year later. What's the guarantee that the ones that were arrested in Luangwa, their case will find itself in court to conclusion? I thank you, Honorable Minister.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have no jurisdiction over the judiciary, nor do I have jurisdiction over the DPP's office, who have got the mandate to prosecute. Our responsibility is to investigate and take matters to court. Once the matter is taken to court, we become witnesses in those matters.
Bonus question, Honorable Member for Lundazi. Order, order. Order, Honorable Member for Feira. I did not recognize you. I called on the Honorable Member for Lundazi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving a chance to the people of Lundazi to ask the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs this important question. Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, behavior is only likely to repeat itself if it is rewarding. None of our children in here have ever been cited for violence. And yet, we are here and we are honorable members and there are mayors out there. Can't we come up with a law to ensure that those people who are participating in the by-election, if they raise violence in that by-election, then they will be nullified and never to appear again on the ballot? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Madam Speaker, I'm very happy that the Honorable Member of Parliament for Lundazi has raised this issue. And you are aware, Madam Speaker, that this issue is topical, where members of the public have been questioning us as a nation as to why we are allowing people who have been condemned in court for having caused violence in by-elections, and their by-elections were nullified, and they want to stand again. So it's a moral issue and a legal issue. It is incumbent upon us to ensure that we come up with laws that are very clear, that those who are found wanting, if you are found wanting in terms of corruption during by-elections, you are found violent during by-elections, you should not stand. We should not be rewarding, Madam Speaker, anyone who's found wanting during by-elections. Your election is nullified because you are violent, and then you are allowed to stand so that you can continue with your violence. We should not allow that.
Order, honorable members, order. We can only call so many honorable members to ask questions, but when honorable members take long to ask you long-winded questions, then other honorable members will not have that opportunity. Honorable member for Feira, you were complaining that you are the one who asked this question. No, I've not called upon you. It was honorable member for Chama South who brought up this matter. So you were given an opportunity, honorable member for Feira, to ask a question. Each honorable member is entitled to asking one question only. So, unfortunately, we've run out of time. We make progress. We still have the... Okay, let's hear him. Honorable member for Feira.
Thank you for your understanding.
Just ask a point of clarification, no giving evidence or an account of what happened.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for your understanding. Indeed, thank you, Minister for Home Affairs, for the assurances that you've made. Madam Speaker, my point of clarification is this. One, the culprits, the UPND culprits that perpetrate the violence are well known. There are over 10 incidences. The names are there. They've said that being in government, the Minister of Home Affairs is protecting them. And true to their word, they have not been arrested. There is a district chairman for Luangwa and provincial
Now
chairman.
you are giving
youth chairman.
evidence on what's
Now,
your point
why
of clarification?
can the minister confirm whether it's true or not that is actually protecting these perpetrators of violence, as it has been alleged, is in here? And for your own information, the people that attacked me are known, and the names are of the police. The police are scared of moving because you are protecting them as they are alleged. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The rules of this House are very clear. When you have an interest to save, you must declare it. But he didn't declare it. But now I'm going to respond. Madam Speaker, the honorable colleague is a suspect in the violence in Ruangwa. Investigations are going on, and I have no right to protect you or anyone who's involved in this matter, because you are a suspect. You have brought your reputation in question here. You should not have brought that issue here.
Honorable Member for Feira. Honorable Member for Feira. That is unbecoming of you as a Member of Parliament. Honorable Member for Feira, I will not take that from you. Please observe the rules and the standing orders. We will not stand there and start exchanging with the minister when you have asked your question, is answering your question. Huh? Let's have order. For that reason, I'm moving on, because I'm not going to have this. And that's why I wanted to move on earlier on. Because if a subject is going to cause anarchy in the House, I will not allow that. There will be no points of order. Question for oral answer and understanding order 74. The Honorable Member from Kaika.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 38.
The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Madam Speaker, allow me to compose myself from the trauma that I just suffered, arising from the expressions from the Honorable Member of Parliament for Feira. And I'll do my best to answer the question from Honorable Mr. Piri, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Mukaika constituency, who's asking the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development at A whether government has any plans to introduce monthly
Order.
salaries.
Where is the Honorable Member from Mukaika going? After making an order, he's walking out of the House?
He's
Oh, not
around.
Mukaika, sorry, Feira. Feira. May the Honorable Minister continue.
Madam, probably Madam, you are also traumatized from the behavior of the man who just walked out.
Definitely. That's why I had to move on.
To
because
mistake
that kind of
a
behavior.
decent human being from Kaika for one who exhibited traits of violence just now. Madam Speaker, Mr. Piri, the Honorable Member of Parliament from Mukaika, is asking the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development at A whether government has any plans to introduce monthly salaries to councillors. At B, if so, when the plans will be implemented. And at C, if there are no such plans, why? Our response, Madam Speaker, to the Honorable Mr. Peter Piri, Member of Parliament for Mukaika constituency, I wish to inform the House that the government has no immediate plans to introduce salaries for councillors. As alluded to at Part A, that government has no plans to introduce salaries for councillors, it therefore goes without saying that B falls off. At C, the councillors have a part-time role in civic leadership. Therefore, they are not entitled to getting a salary in accordance with the section number 28 of the Local Government Act number 2 of 2019, which reads, and I quote, "A councillor shall be paid allowances as determined by the Emoluments Commission." Therefore, it goes without saying, Madam Speaker, that until such a time that the law changes, it will be against the existing law to introduce salaries for our colleagues, the councillors. I thank you.
Thank you. Supplementary questions? The Honorable Member for Chiruvi. But before we proceed, Honorable Mungandu, you, oh sorry. Honorable Member for Chama South, you have a point of order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Indeed, I have a serious point of order in pursuant to our Article 65. Information provided on the floor of this House should not only be factual, but verifiable. Madam Speaker, I'm very saddened. I'm raising this point of order on the Minister of Home Affairs, whom we expect
Honorable
to
Member,
provide leadership.
let me just tell you, Honorable Member for Chama South, that item has already been closed because of the emotive nature. May you take your seat? Because of the emotive nature that erupted after I allowed the Honorable Member for Feira to ask a question, I decided to move on and close that item. So no point of order can arise after I've closed the item. And actually, the Honorable Member for Feira will need to apologize to this Honorable House for the outburst that he made after I used my discretion to ask him to ask a question. And I guided him not to give evidence, but to ask a point of clarification. Now it shows who is a violent person in the circumstances with that kind of behavior. Yes. So he should come and apologize to this honorable house. We don't tolerate emotions here. We all have emotions, but we have to control them. We have to check them. The honorable member for... Sorry. The honorable member for Chiruvi. If he's not... Ovechu? Okay.
Hello.
Proceed, honorable member for Chiruvi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Now that the minister said that according to law, the councillors can only receive allowances, and the Emoluments Commission has been operationalized by passing the Emoluments Commission Act. Is the local government considering increasing the volume of the allowances that the councillors receive from the current 3,000 to something higher, especially that we are looking at the prices of what? Because councillors, at the end of the day, they are also human beings and they live in the same Zambia, that we have essential commodity prices challenging. So within the parameters of the law, is the ministry considering increasing their current allowance, because it's an allowance, it's not a salary, using the Emoluments Commission?
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Madam Speaker, I wish the Honorable Member of Parliament would cite the law that is referring to as the parameters of the law that allows for revision of an allowance for honorable councillors. The way I quoted the law that provides for the councillors to get allowances, and I was very clear.
I think, in my view, absolutely clear that we need to come here and change the law in order to provide for what the intention of the Honorable Member of Parliament for Mukaika may have been. The issue of the volumes of how much the Honorable Councillors are getting, I want to confirm here now that this has been an ongoing conversation with the councillors. It has been an ongoing conversation with the councillors through their representation from the Local Government Association of Zambia, which, by the way, is chaired by my own mayor, the mayor of Mazabuka, Honorable Vincent Lilanda. So we have been talking, although we have not cast any figures into concrete.
Honorable Member for Nalolo.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Minister, for your answer. Honorable Minister, has your ministry done benchmarking with regards to councillors in other jurisdictions? Because when you talk about it as a part-time job, do you have any immediate intentions to bring to this House proposals to amend that law? Because councillors, other than sitting in the council where they pass bylaws, have a permanent responsibility to be representatives of their people in their wards, respective wards. So therefore, in summarizing my question, do you have a specific intention to amend this law, considering that other jurisdictions in the SADC region consider these people as full-time representatives of their people? Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Madam, yes, I can confirm that we have done some benchmarking exercises to do comparisons of what other councillors in other jurisdictions are entitled to. What I said earlier on is that the current situation is bound into a statute. It's in the law. And this House is the House that is charged with the responsibility of changing the law. Safe to say that any change into the law that has monetary implications is something that must come through cabinet. And as we are in the process of normalizing the economy that was left in a serious malaise by those who were there before us, unfortunately the fiscal space may be a bit too limited to venture into that at this present moment. But the intention is there, because we do realize that the cost of living sometimes gets a bit unbearable. Unbearable as it may be, it would have been nice for the Honorable Member of Parliament for Nalolo to also understand what I said in my maiden answer, and that is to say, by definition of the law, the role of a councillor is a part-time engagement. I thank you, Madam.
Thank you. The Honorable Member from Kaika. Order. As the time is 10:40 hours, I suspend business for 20 minutes for a health break.
You are watching Parliament television, and business has been suspended, and members of Parliament have gone on 20 minutes health break. It was supposed to start at 11 hours when the House resumes the sitting. And under consideration on the floor of the House is question number 38 that has been posed by Mukaika Member of Parliament, Mr. Peter Piri, and this question has been posed to the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development on whether government has any plans to introduce monthly salaries for councillors, and we expect the House to continue when the House resumes sitting at 11 hours.
Right, we take a break. We'll be back on the other side.
Zambia All-Party Parliamentary Group on Population and Development, ZAPAD, held a workshop for members of parliament at Grand Palace Hotel, which was officiated by the Government Deputy Chief Whip, Honorable Princess Kasune, who is also Kembe Member of Parliament and ZAPAD Chairperson, who had this to say in her opening remarks.
I am delighted to welcome you all to the first workshop for the Zambian All-Party Parliamentary Group on Population and Development, ZAPAD, which is being held in collaboration with the Asian Population and Development Association, APDA. The workshop has been convened to capacitate members of parliament with information on population and development and issues which are an important ingredient to our aspiration of improving the lives of people today and tomorrow. Honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, ZAPAD was established by a group of members of parliament in 1997 in Lusaka. As a matter of fact, the first headquarters of the African and Arab world on population and development was based right here at the Parliament buildings, now the Chief Whip's office. How interesting that is. The main objective of establishing ZAPAD included the following: to strengthen the country's commitment to the various statements of commitment by parliaments on the International Conference on Population and Development Program of Action and the Millennium Goals, to provide a forum for members of parliament to advocate on population issues affecting their country and advance the integration of population factors in developmental processes.
Representative of the Asian Population and Development Association, APDA, Dr. Farouk Osmanov, as convener of the workshop, made the following remarks.
I belong to APDA as well as AFPPD, two important parliamentary organizations in Asia and Pacific. APDA and AFPPD were established in 1982, 40 years ago. While APDA is a secretariat for JPFP, which is Japan Parliamentary Federation for Population, AFPPD is a regional parliamentary forum with 30 member states in Asia and Pacific region. APDA has a long-standing history of cooperation with Africa. It funds annual meetings between Asian and African parliamentary members, encouraging interaction between members of these regions, strengthening South-South cooperation. One of such meetings was held in Zambia in 2014. This platform is considered an important event for exchanging experiences, networking, and knowledge sharing. Thanks to these activities, some champion members in Africa and Asia have been proposing legislation and law modifications, revision of policies to improve countries' population development issues.
Then followed presentations from resource persons, beginning with the one presented by Reverend Charles Banda from the Ministry of Finance and National Planning, which focused on roles members of parliament can play on issues surrounding population and development.
We are hoping that through you, each time you look at the budget and of Ministry of Finance and National Planning, you look at the Population and Development Department, you will see, and then you advocate so that then the cause of integration is done. At the moment, and I've already alluded to that, and with the decentralization, we are required also to develop modules for integration of population issues. And with the way the New Dawn has taken a center stage in ensuring that development goes to the people down there, it is also our responsibility to ensure that we guide on how all the population factors are taken into account.
Members of Parliament then made reactions to the presentation.
I would love you to define more now. What do you mean by us taking the population seriously?
You have continually referred to the Asian tigers and how they have overcome their population issues. But you haven't really elaborated how they have done that. other than maybe lobbying for funds from their respective governments or so that they can fight the issue to do with the population. It is not a duplication to have this population development, and also we have the Central Statistics Office. Why can't you merge together so that those numbers can go up?
The population management is not about reducing the population size. If, for example, at the individual level, someone has 20 children, or I can use the example of maybe if you have honorable members from Luapula or Mchinga, because they are my traditional cousins, they will say Mwaombeni for having so many of those. But that Mwaombeni is at the expense of the health of the mother. Then you will find, because of too many children at too short a time, then you have a woman that dies, and then you have a death. That is those are the issues we are talking about. So, someone that has 4 children or 5 children, he will manage the children, take them to school, and maybe he will not leave them in the streets. So, population size will always grow, but we must grow at a level that even at the individual level, you know, if I have 5, I think I'll manage them. When you have a situation like this, where you see this is a base, a tap, you find every year you are adding more people to your population. You know what this means to a government? It means every year they must build hospitals. Every year they must ensure they build schools. Because this tap is open. But when you have programs like family planning, the population is growing, but it is growing at a pace of the economic growth. So if it is growing the way it is in Zambia, alas, you will have to deal all the time with health issues. You will have to deal all the time with the safe motherhood issues. You have to deal with, you know, that's the implications. Well, the question I always ask people is, Zamstats correct accounting information. What is the difference between them and the Bank of Zambia? Zamstats correct information on inflation and revenue. What is the difference between them and the Revenue Authority? Zamstats collect all data, including population data, including housing data, and yet there is a Ministry of Housing. But ours is a policy design to help our policymakers. Ours is to give technical advice on the population matters. So we are far different from them. They collect health data, they collect economic data, they collect population data, so they also collect population data. But us is a policy direction.
Mr. Lester Piri from the Planned Parenthood Association of Zambia, PPAZ, made a presentation on population and development which equally attracted reactions from members of parliament.
The aspiration is that no woman should die while giving life. I think that is what we have been aspiring since 2011 through the KAMA program. But as it stands right now, that is still happening. We are still struggling with the issue of dropouts in schools, which are quite high compared to the completion levels. So already with the deliberate policy by the New Dawn government, you can see that the enrollment is going to hit the roof. Probably every child is going to be enrolled because of the free education policy. But our worry mostly is on the dropout, because most of them make it to grade 7, but they don't make it to grade 12. Why is poverty widespread? widespread. And I think Reverend Banda mentioned that our population is growing faster than the economy. So I'll put it into context. With the same income, when I have one child or two children or three children, it's not the same as when I have 6 children with the same kind of income. Maybe I bring it down to the household level. But the dependence we are talking about and also the population growth, it's not just about me having my children with my wife or whoever, but it's about also the children who are being had by other people who are still going to depend on me as an uncle, as a grandfather, as a cousin, you know. So I don't have to produce the children myself. Society is there to produce the children on my behalf. And yes, so you find that they will still depend on me. And even if I have this robust policy of not encouraging laziness in my extended family, at one time I'll feel human, I'll be able to extend my hand to help. So what we are simply saying is the people who are working and earning a living, either informal or formal, the amount of money that they are able to generate from their economic activities is not sufficient to run their families.
I always, somehow my mother said, I hope you have 4 children. I don't know why she said it to me. I was very young. And I've ended up with 3. But somehow in my other thinking, I've always thought of 10 children. Not that I could give birth to them. I've just loved the number 10. And indeed, I've ended up with 10 children because I've adopted others. So that's my situation.
You indicated during your presentation that poverty levels still significantly high, 54.4%, that is 2015, rural 76.6%, and urban 23.4%. These statistics are for 2015, and we are in 2022. Where are we? Do we have a current statistics in terms of the poverty levels? Then secondly, as we are winding up, sexual reproductive health rights program interventions not well being coordinated by and among stakeholders. Yeah, what are you doing about that observation?
This is just a suggestion to Zapad, Chairperson. I visited Rwanda some time back, and I actually visited the Zapad of Rwanda. And I noticed that they pushed for a Sexual and Reproductive Health Rights Act, basically a law that brings together all these and talks about all these coordination issues which are talking about fragmentation, resources, prioritization, of which are some of the key issues in SRHR. And I thought that perhaps we could learn from there and begin dialogue around pushing for an SRHR Act.
One of the interventions in your presentation is that there is need to encourage voluntary family planning. I just want to find out what has been the response so far.
Can we categorically state that all things being equal, we should be having the family planning commitments being signed by government. That I'm very sure. I'm not very sure about the rest of the commitments. Maybe if my colleagues at the back from civil society have information on that. And thank you for the observation of the census as an opportunity, Honorable Kalila, for members to be interested, as members of ZAPID, to be interested in population issues. For Honorable Mshanga, the poverty levels versus urban, what are the current statistics? I don't know. I was trying to be cautious with my presentation. I was trying to quote something that is already published. I'm not very sure if we have new statistics. I don't know, colleagues from national, I don't think so. I think the last one should have been in 2015. On the issue of coordination, what are we doing? You would like to work with us. I added the word well coordinated to that sentence for a very good reason, that we are not at optimum. But as it stands right now, I think the coordination is very good. We have improved because we have identified different forums like national platforms where we meet as CSOs. We have a task force on CSE. We belong to the National Technical Working Group on Family Planning, Adolescent Health, Reproductive Health, Commodities, all those groups. Because I think in the past, each one of us were doing our own thing, but I think we have identified those. So the coordination, I think, mostly could be maybe interministerial, interagency kind of coordination that needs an improvement. The knowledge levels are quite high in terms of people knowing that there's family planning and what it does and all that. But I think what is difficult is to match that with the behavioral aspect in terms of people getting to use the family planning. So, and that's the reason why we are here. Partly because we want to also look at some of those challenges and see how we can understand why the knowledge level is very high but the usage is very low.
Another presentation was on available parliamentary platforms through which parliamentarians can drive the agenda of population and development. The workshop continued into breakaway groups, at the end of which group leaders made presentations and recommendations to the ZAPAD strategic plan. Dr. Farouk made the following remarks at the end of the workshop.
I'm privileged to present today and witnessed how the National Committee in Zambia addresses the issues around the population and development, touching the census and then the gender balance and more and more. It's very interesting to see that National Committee interacts with partners such as the government institutions and representative of the civil society organizations. Indeed, family planning and birth control are important factors of population development. That's why meetings such as these are very important for information sharing. My next stop will be Tanzania, where I will meet members of Tanzania and Zanzibar national committees, and we'll learn how Eastern African country is doing to address the population issues. The outcome of these visits, one in South African country and East African countries, will be shared with your colleagues in Japan and Asia.
So, there we are.
Okay, there you have it. In a short while, we expect business to resume. House is still considering questions for oral answer, and still to come, we have a continuation of debate on the motion of thanks.
Yes, and we also still have a number of questions to be considered on the floor of the House. We have a question coming from Kalabo Central Member of Parliament, who is expected to ask a question to the Minister of Energy. And a few more other questions to come. We cross back to the floor of the House.
Right, apparently there's no quorum. Pauline, we're just giving us some direction on what is on the floor of the House and what business we expect. But just in the meantime, it appears a quorum has been formed. We cross back to the chamber.
When business was suspended, the House was considering question number 38 on the order paper asked by the Honorable Member from Mukaika, and the Honorable Member for Mukaika was about to ask a follow-up question. May the Honorable Member continue.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. My question to the Minister is, Minister, I think you are aware that before the 3,000 allowance that the councillors get, they were getting only sitting allowances, which were about 300 to 400 kwacha. Now, the Patriotic Party government, when they were in power, they raised that amount to 3,000. Don't you think the precedence was set and that you can do the same to adjust the amount for the councillors. Because these people really, they do face a lot of challenges and they are on the ground anytime, every time. Don't you think something should be done just to up their dues? Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Rural Development, Local Government and Rural Development.
Madam Speaker, let me thank the Honorable Member of Parliament from Mukaika for asking that very, very important question and also citing what happened before. The increment that was done by our colleagues in PF from poultry 300 kwacha to 3,000 kwacha per month, which was a commendable thing to do. I would like to confirm here again that we have had an ongoing conversation with the ELGAs, Local Authority, Local Government Association of Zambia, a structured body that looks at the interests of our representatives, the councillors. Let me also give you a bit more comfort, Honorable Member of Parliament for Mukaika, that yes, the PF, I've been advised by colleagues from PF that we should try as much as possible to move on and forget about the issue of PF. We wish we can forget about the issue of PF, but now that he has raised it, allow me to just go through the motions. Yes, like the PF have done before, of overcommitting on expenditure. There are many times, many instances, Madam Speaker, where even this 3,000 kwacha which they introduced, they failed to pay. That is on record. This government is organized, and we want to work according to the appropriation of finances as approved by this House. And I want to assure you that once we log in the emolument for the councillors, we shall not fail to pay. Just the way PF was failing to even meet the local authority equalization fund. I want to put it to you that ever since we took office, not a single month has gone past without us meeting the obligation of paying the local authority equalization fund. The issue of the CDF, another example that I must give you, Honorable Member of Parliament, for Mukaika. It was only a poultry 1.6. We went for 2 years. In certain cases, 3, those of us who were in the opposition, without seeing that 1.6 million CDF. We broadened it to 25.7 million kwacha, broadened it by size, by extent, by everything, and we have not defaulted, not even by 1 kwacha. That goes to show you that when the president of this republic, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, talks about the issue of methodically, systematically, we do not want to look back and say what we committed, we are failing to deliver. So my message to our colleagues, the councillors, who I'm in constant contact with by virtue of the job that I was awarded, to say, please give us time, and within due course, when we stabilize this economy that was damaged by those who increased and failed to pay, we shall all be good together. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Pambashe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Minister, for your responses. At the beginning of your answering, you said councillors are part-time civic leaders, according to the law, to which we agree. Therefore, Minister, are you confirming that councillors are allowed by law to get full, permanent, and pensionable employment, regardless of who the employer may be? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Madam Speaker, another important question from our colleague from Pambashe. I must make a quick confession here that I'm not very certain about government workers, but I'm very sure, I'm very certain that those who are working in industry can double the role of being a councillor as well as an employee. I come from a constituency which has a big industry. I have two councillors who work for Zambia Sugar, and there's no conflict there. Where I think there may lie a conflict, if we get a civil servant doubling into the role of a councillor as well as of a nurse or teacher or a government paying job, is that by its nature, a councillor is elected on a political ticket. And because they are elected on a political ticket, it therefore goes without saying that there may be areas of conflict of interest in executing of their duty if they are employed in government. That is my rational thinking, but is subject to be checked. I thank you. I hope that the colleague has got my answer fairly clearly.
Honorable Member for Lumezi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, in your earlier answer, you cited the law. Honorable Minister, on the other hand, when it comes to the CDF, you've decided to buy land cruisers against the wishes of the people, against the law. Why don't you do the same on the councillors? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
I actually must confess that I like this MP very much because he always creates a platform to provide some clarity. Madam Speaker, although maybe this question is in the periphery and maybe used it as an example, but then I'll write on the example that he has given to say that it is malicious, completely malicious, for people to create a narrative that is related to the question that the Honorable Member of Parliament for Lumezi has asked. And because society can easily be gullible, people may want to ride on a balloon with hot air. Here is the fact. We are not about to abrogate the law where councillors are concerned. And we have not abrogated any law where the acquisition of these motor vehicles is concerned. This minister that is on the floor, Madam Speaker, was a witness who was summoned to a committee that was constituted by yourself, Madam Speaker, and it was called an ad hoc committee, a committee which was charged with the responsibility of looking at and streamlining and profiling the utilization of the Constituency Development Fund. It was this committee, in its wisdom, that represented all of us here, and I mean to the exception of none, including Honorable Chilangwa, who I'm told raised a point of order on this subject yesterday while I was in the village. It is this committee, Madam Speaker, that said that in the monitoring and evaluation of CDF projects, the office of the MP requires a brand new 4x4 motor vehicle. And in the report that was read by the chairman of that committee, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Shiwangandu, Honorable Stephen Kampyongo, it was very clear and succinct that it was the desire of the representatives of the people through that committee that the communities needed to have the monitoring and evaluation equipment in the name of a motor vehicle. Part of their request, Madam Speaker, was that they wanted this motor vehicle to be stationed at the office of the Member of Parliament. That's what they wanted. They also wanted that the office of the Member of Parliament should draw a salary for a driver from the Constituency Development Fund, the committee that represented all of us. We took all that into consideration. I presented that matter before Cabinet, And anything coming from these distinguished members, some of them distinguished, is the view and requirement and desire of the people who voted for us. Therefore, it goes without saying that this was a community requirement. So there was no law, contrary to what some people have been coquetting about out there in the media, that Nkombo is buying vehicles. I'm not buying no vehicle. So there's no law that has been abrogated. All Cabinet did was to say, and through the wisdom, by the way, of His Excellency the President, who said MPs are entitled to a motor vehicle loan, which they must pay back. The ordinary person on the street may not understand that that's a loan. To give the MP a second vehicle, which the ordinary person on the street will simply think, now the MPs are entitled to 2 vehicles, will create animosity between society and the MPs. And as Cabinet, we agreed that the President is actually right. I came back to the committee and explained to the committee that unfortunately you cannot have this vehicle stationed at your office. It will go to the council, which is the implementing agency or the secretariat of the Constituent Development Fund Committee. We also, supplementary information, said the way PF was conducting themselves in employing everyone and anyone, we had many drivers in the councils that were just idling, who are on the payroll. And we said, where there are drivers, you can then second someone from the council to be using that car. The MPs, through that committee, had actually wanted to be driving those cars themselves, a matter which would have caused consternation among our citizens. And so, Honorable Member of Parliament for Lumezi, there is a fundamental difference between the issue of the emoluments of the councillors and the example that you tried to bring in as an excess to the situation at hand. The bottom line, we are not about to abrogate any law. We shall not break any law. But thank you for your oversight role, because this is how it ought to be. Madam, thank you.
Thank you very much. I can confirm that that is the position. The honorable members they wanted to buy a motor vehicle. I think the only point of departure is who takes charge of that motor vehicle. I think that is where the problem is. But in terms of honorable members wanting that vehicle, I can confirm that they do want that vehicle. And they made representations to me, and I've been talking on their behalf. Let's make progress. Next question, the honorable member for Kalabo Central.
Question number 39.
Okay, by prior arrangement asked by the Deputy Chief Whip, the Honorable Minister of Energy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Miutu, MP, Kalabo Central Parliamentary Constituency, to ask the Minister of Energy 3 questions. A, how much fuel reserves the country had as of February 2022? B, whether there are any plans to increase the reserves at any given times? And C, if so, when the plans will be implemented? Madam Speaker, answer to question A is, as at 28th February 2022, the country had the following stocks in reserves: petrol, 1.2 million liters; diesel, 23 million liters; kerosene, 116,000; jet A1, 27,000. Answer to question B, yes, government has plans to increase fuel reserves and stocks in the country. In this regard, government has embarked on a program to construct bulk provincial fuel depots in order to increase in-country strategic petroleum reserves. So far, Government has constructed the 6.5 million liter Mansa fuel depot, 7 million liter Chipata fuel depot, and is currently constructing the 102 million liters Lusaka fuel depot. Answer to question C. The plans are ongoing. I recently commissioned the Chipata Strategic Fuel Depot and anticipate to commission the new Lusaka Fuel Depot in March 2023. Madam Speaker, allow me to further give additional information that is relevant to these questions. Government aims to maintain fuel reserves amounting to 30 stock days so as to satisfy the envisioned growth in demand given the projected increase in economic activities. Government will require that all oil marketing companies that will import petroleum products should hold inventory as strategic reserve for a period of 30 days so as to ensure security of supply. The target is to build strategic reserves amounting to 99 million liters for diesel, 42 million liters of petrol, 3.6 million liters of kerosene, and 2.5 million liters of Jet A1. By international standards, the recommended fuel reserve cover is 60 to 90 days, but Zambia is currently averaging 5 to 10 days. Government is currently constrained and unable to boost the reserves as it has focused on dismantling the over $600 million debt owed to suppliers of fuel. It is our hope that as the macroeconomic situation improves and once we settle this debt, government will be able to increase the strategic fuel reserve to at least 30 days. I submit.
Thank you. Supplementary questions. Honorable Member for Chilubi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Am I through?
Proceed, Honorable Member. You are through.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Minister has indicated in his statement about constructing provincial fuel reserves for petroleum products. I want to find out whether government has future plans to build such fuel reserves, especially in rural areas that have got problems with petroleum products, especially at district level.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Energy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've stated that government is currently constrained. We need to dismantle this over 600 million kwacha debt owed to oil marketing companies. Until such a time that this debt is cleared, that is the time we'll start looking at additional storage. And let me state this. When you look at the world trend now, electric cars are coming. And so it will not be prudent for this government to invest more into storage tanks that might be defunct in the next 20 years. I submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kamfinsa.
Madam Speaker, a question directed to the Minister of Energy. Is it the new policy of government to abandon the construction of storage reserve tanks? I thank you.
I don't know if the question is related. We are talking about reserves, fuel reserves, and the minister said is planning, the government plans on building some provincial bulk depots. So I don't know if your question falls in this question that is being considered.
Madam Speaker, the minister has just responded that there are new electrical vehicles coming on board and that there's no need to construct tanks which will have no use in the next 20 years.
My question, Madam Speaker, is very clear. Is it the policy of government that they will no longer construct reserve tanks as a result of that response, which has been provided by the Minister in charge of energy in the Republic of Zambia? I thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Energy.
Madam Speaker, I think my honorable member did not follow my statement correctly. What I said that we will look at additional storage, bearing in mind that soon electric vehicles will be on the market and the consumption of these petroleum products would have reduced drastically. So we don't see any prudence in spending more money in investing into structures that will be defunct within 20 years, I submit.
Thank you. I'll allow 2 more questions so that we can make progress. The Honorable Member for Chienge.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, thank you for the answers. Madam Speaker, through you, I'd like to find out from the Minister, since we are talking about reservations of fuel in our country. I just want to find out, since we've been having reserved fuels, how has it been that the prices have been going up and down when we have the fuel which was bought at a particular price? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Energy.
Madam Speaker, I should mention that government has moved away from procuring petroleum products. All these petroleum products that are coming into the country are from the private sector. A few of it is contracted from government contracted suppliers. And as such, these prices tend to fluctuate depending on the international market, so that you see, if you lose in 1 month, you might gain in the next month because you've already bought probably the products at a higher price. I submit.
Honorable Mfalali.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Minister has just indicated that the reserves are between 6 days to 10 days. I just wanted to find out, Minister, what strategic moves are you making in order to ensure that you meet the 60 days international accepted reserves, bearing in mind that you are saying the debt burden of 600 million is what is actually hampering this progress. How are you bringing in the private sector? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Energy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The issue at hand here is the $600 million. How do we increase the reserves when we are constrained to spend on these storage facilities? Until such a time, if the government will sort of restructure, refinance this debt, then we will be able to increase the storage facility to the 30 days that is required. I submit.
Thank you. I think we are running out of time. Can we make progress? Next question. The Honorable Member for Chama North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 40.
The Honorable Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the question to the Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development is as follows. Why works on Phase 3 of the construction of Chama General Hospital have stalled? B, when the works will resume? C, what the total cost of the outstanding works is? And D, what the time frame for the completion of the project is?
Our response is as follows. A, the construction of Chama District Hospital Phase 3 has stalled due to the fact that, one, the contract was terminated. Secondly, inadequate funding. B, the project will resume once the financial resources are made available by the Treasury, and the works to that effect will be re-advertised for tender, from which the best evaluated bidder will be picked to complete the remaining works. C, the total cost of the outstanding works at the moment is 4.5 million kwacha. D, the time frame for completion is estimated between 8 to 12 months. And thank you.
Thank you. Supplementary questions, Honorable Member for Chairman North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Minister, for that response. You have indicated that the contract was terminated and that due to funds, the project has stalled. I think I want to bring to the attention of the Minister that this project was commenced in the MMD government during the Levi Manawasa's government. And under phase 3, there were supposed to be 10 houses to be constructed, staff houses, then the children ward, water integration, and landscaping. So I want to find out from the Minister whether you have made the provision in the 2023 national budget so that this matter is sorted out as quickly as possible, because surely it has taken too long for this project to be completed. Thank you.
The Honorable Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Honorable, for a follow-up question. Indeed, Madam Speaker, it is correct to say that this project has indeed taken a long time, considering that this project commenced in January of 2013. Now, Madam Speaker, you will note that this year, government gave a directive that would only budget for projects that were incomplete but were at 80%. And this particular project, unfortunately, is at 70% completion. However, I want to say that for 2023, depending on the policy that will be given by the Minister of Finance when he articulates his budget month end of September, it is hoped that this particular project will be considered and a new contractor will be engaged. And I also wanted just to say that considering that the expected completion period of termination at the time this was terminated was at 42 weeks, we are looking at the outstanding works, which are including the completion of the children's ward and issues of paving and things like that. But also, it is to say that the contract had to be terminated because of non-performance by the contractor. So, yes, it is hoped that 2023 we can complete it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, the Honorable Member for Mwinilunga.
Speaker, question number 41.
The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Member for Mwinilunga has asked the Minister of Health when an ambulance will be procured for Mwinilunga District Hospital to enhance its operations. Our response, Madam Speaker, is that government has started the process of procuring the 100 ambulances under the 2022 budget. And once the processes are done and the procurement is done, we will first start by allocating to those that have none, And we will also take into account those that may have one but have bigger districts. That is how we have planned as a ministry. So all I can say is that we can wait until the process for procurement is completed. Also to state that it is the intention of our ministry and government, of government through our ministry to continue with this process, because we have noted that a number of districts are not doing very well when it comes to referral, and we are losing lives just on account of late referrals because of lack of transport. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Mwinilunga, supplementary question.
Very grateful, Madam Speaker, and very grateful, Minister, for the answers that you have provided. My question, Minister, is that we are a methodical government, and therefore would require some kind of time frame in which the process could be completed. I think we'd be very happy if we were given that information. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Health.
Just to thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for your follow-up question. Just to state that I note that the procurement was through an open national tender, and I've been told that the deadline will be 27th of September, and once the supplier is picked, we can put another 3 months there, I think, for transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The Honorable Member for Mwinilunga having been satisfied, we can make progress. We don't have much time. Next question, the Honorable Member for Kanchivia.
Question number 42, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Honorable Member of Parliament for Kanchivia asked the Minister of Water Development and Sanitation as follows: whether the government has any plans to construct a water reticulation system at the Kale Island in Kanchivia parliamentary constituency, and B, if so, when the plans will be implemented. Our response, Madam Speaker, is that yes, government has plans to construct a water reticulation system at Kale Island in Kanchivia constituency, and B, that the construction of the water reticulation system will commence once the feasibility studies are conducted and funds are made available. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Supplementary questions, Honorable Member for Kanchivia.
So much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me also thank the Honorable Minister for that assurance to the people of Kate under Chief Kabinga's chiefdom in Kanchivia constituency. Honorable Minister, would you be able to just give an indication of when the feasibility study is likely to start? Thank you. And how long it would take?
Thank you. Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Through you, I want to thank the Member of Parliament for Kanchivia for that supplementary question. I want to confirm that the feasibility study should be, the studies should be undertaken within the last quarter of the 2022. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kamfinsa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The project that has been referred to by the MP for Kanchivia is a very important project, which obviously will benefit the people in that catchment area. And the response from the Minister is that once the feasibility study is done, then that will form the decision that government will take Madam Speaker, I want to find out from the Minister. We have traditional institutions that have supported government over the years in the water sector, Africa Development Bank, and other different institutions. Have you identified a partner or an institution that would be able to support the works of a feasibility study? Because it's a very critical stage before you actually undertake the project. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Our plan is that we are going to work with our provincial team in the province and also work with the local authority, but to be supported by the ministry. So we'll be able to support the studies from the ministry in terms of technical support. We'll attach some members of staff to go and assist the provincial team. So thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The clerk will now read the order of the day.
Thanks. His Excellency the President's address, motion of 13th September 2022, resumption of debate.
When business was interrupted yesterday, Thursday, 22nd September 2022, the House was considering the motion moved by the Honorable Member for Kabwe Central that the thanks of this Assembly be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in the President's address, and the Honorable Member for Dudumwezi was debating. May the Honorable Member continue.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I'll immediately start from where I ended yesterday. Immediately, we adjourned. Madam Speaker, what I was driving to yesterday was that the Minister of Health is up to the task to ensure that even Dundumwezi gets the health posts which we were not given in the past 11 years. But also, Madam Speaker, allow me also to quickly talk about roads in Dundumwezi. I want to bring it to our attention that Dundumwezi Karomo Road was last rehabilitated in 1996, and since then, nothing has been done. We tried to put in to plan through CDF. As I indicated yesterday, Madam Speaker, CDF was not released to our constituencies. But I want to say thank you to the Minister of Infrastructure who has indicated that Dundumwezi Karomo Road will be attended to soon. And I think these are the things that the people of Dundumwezi are saying. The speech by the President was good and promising. I also want to state that just last week, Madam Speaker, when the Minister of Agriculture was giving a statement, you heard some of our colleagues questioning him as to why, whether they are going to manage to ensure that inputs are distributed, bearing in mind that he had indicated that the contracts were cancelled. But here we are. 2-3 days ago, the Minister of Agriculture flagged off the distribution of inputs, meaning this government, these cabinet ministers that you see, they mean well for this country. I'm so sure that if I see a borehole in Kanchivia, then I know that even mine is coming. Because the way they do things is that they are not selective. So, Madam Speaker,
sorry.
Thank you very much.
Not carried away. Thank you. Honorable members, as you are aware, today is dedicated for the honorable ministers to respond. But I've seen that we have a number of members of parliament who have indicated that they would want to speak. Of course, we are short of time. I think when we started, we were very slow to get to starting debate, but we can only allow so many to debate at any particular time. So under the circumstances, I will allow only one PF member to debate and one UPND, and then we go to the ministers. Now the problem is who to choose, but from the PF I will pick on Honorable Member for Kachivia. Sorry, Honorable Member for Shuangando, I know you were indicated. Oh, if you are concluding, then you, Honorable Member for Shuangandu. Sorry, Honorable Member for Kanchibia.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Although I would have loved a few members to speak to the speech, we loaded, I think we must, through you, appeal to the clerk that when we have got a motion such as this one, we lessen other businesses and give priority to the main motion, because this motion builds into the budget presentation. So let's take note of that as we go forward. Madam Speaker, I'll speak to a few issues that and few pronouncements that were made in the speech. And as you know, a speech of pronouncements only becomes what you would describe it when the implementation begins of those pronouncements. Madam Speaker, the President spoke to legal reforms. And I think, yes, it is important that we embark on legal reforms in a number of areas. But I've got a concern. While it is important that the President would want the penal code to be repealed so that we can deal with elements of the death penalty, we need to sequence the amendments to these pieces of legislation in a manner that is that doesn't pose a challenge in the future. And I think the Honorable Minister of Justice knows that this matter of the death penalty is is a constitutional matter under Part 3 of the old Constitution, which was not dealt with due to the failed referendum. And so we need to start with the first things first. Let's deal with the supreme provisions of the old Constitution before we can come to subsidiary legislation such as being proposed by the President. That way, it will be neat and it will be logical in the way we deal with this matter. Madam Speaker, the issue of amending the Public Order Act, very interesting and welcome idea. But my caution is that to the government is that there's a lot of work that was done to try and amend this piece of legislation. Madam Speaker, you heard just on Tuesday when we were launching the research week, the president of the Interparliamentary Union confirming that they played a role as stakeholders in the consultations that took place before the bill of 2019 was developed. And I must commend late Justice Madam Roida Kauma, who was heading the Law Development Agency then, for the work they did. And Madam Speaker, for that purpose, I'll make sure that I make a copy available of the Public Order Act Bill number 19 to help the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Home Affairs save the resources, because there's a lot of work that went into this bill, where they can start from. And I'm doing that so that they understand that we also meant well when we were sitting on your right-hand side, insofar as the Public Order Act was concerned. Madam Speaker, surprising, the ones who were questioning were here when this bill came. And so this is the that we need to deal with. So, Madam Speaker, it is important. This is a very important piece of law which manages the tension that exists between order and freedom. Yes, freedom is a must-have, just as order is a must-have, because where you have got only one of the two, the consequences are very well known. Where there's only order and there's no freedom,
you expect a totalitarian society. Just as where there is only freedom and no order, you expect anarchy. So this law is very important, and our colleagues should know, even with what is obtaining now, you have seen odd members running around, making all sorts of pronouncements. We need to manage society through the pieces of restoration. So, Madam Speaker, we support the amendment just as we did when we were in government, and the reason why we have this bill, which I will lay on the table when I finish my discourse, is for that very important reason. Madam Speaker, the President spoke passionately about the health sector. And on page 26 of his speech, he made certain pronouncements that got my attention. It says, and I quote, to ensure a steady supply and availability of essential drugs and medicines, government has procured a year's supply of essential medicines and medical supplies while promoting local manufacturing of pharmaceutical products and other medical supplies. What is shocking, Madam Speaker, is that while the President makes these pronouncements, our people are still going to health facilities and coming out with prescriptions. Where are these medicines that the President spoke about? This morning we had headlines of ZAMSA also threatening to cancel contracts of suppliers. So who is telling what? Our people are going, these are matters of life and death, Madam Speaker. And all that are going, all of us here, as members of parliament, know what is obtaining in our health facilities. So it's important that those that are charged with the responsibility of making the medicines available in our health facilities do their job. Because our people shouldn't be dying when the government is in place. Briefly, Madam Speaker, on the energy sector, I don't know whether the President was happy to share with the nation that Indian refinery was going to be closed and change the mode of business. Honorable Minister of Energy, our forefathers who put up that strategic infrastructure, Indian, Tazama pipeline, 1,750 kilometers, knew why they did that. And certainly, if we are going to say we start dealing with finished products, don't even entertain the idea of thinking we can pipe finished products using a pipeline of that long. That has caused anarchy in other countries, even here on the continent. Nigeria is a classic example. You know the people that are moving fuel products from the other side won't allow that to happen because we can't do it any other way, apart from the same way we have done to Tazama pipeline. So, Madam Speaker, we want to have a clear-cut policy on how you are going to deal with these issues of fuels. I heard you talk about the batteries. Those are for the future. But for now, we need to do the right thing. And the right thing is to ensure that our people are safeguarded. We can't depend on the finished products. You are talking to Angola. Are you going to be buying finished products from Angola? You are supposed to be thinking of getting different feedstock, because that's where you can safeguard yourselves. So, Madam Speaker, we would want to see the government settle and start doing the job. There's only an amount to which you can blame your predecessors.
Thank you.
When you are in charge, it's time to be in charge. Madam Speaker, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. On my right side, there are two members who have indicated to speak, but I can only allow one person, unless if the two members are willing to yield time to each other, 4 minutes each. And if that is the case, then I will recognize both of them. I'll start with the Honorable Member for Gwengwa. 4 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Madam Speaker, for allowing me to debate about the presidential speech. Madam Speaker, the theme of the presidential speech, I do remember quite well. The President did say, working together towards socio-economic transformation, stimulating economic growth for improved livelihoods. Madam Speaker, I think the President, most of the Zambian people who were listening to his speech on that Friday when he came on the floor of this House, every Zambian, all the well-meaning Zambian, Madam Speaker, were very much impressed and inspired about his speech. That was very encouraging.
But he did also mention that we inherited a broken economy. Okay? And upon saying that, Madam Speaker, all the Zambian people are very much aware that the PF destroyed this country from 2011, the time they took over government. The only thing which they were specialized is just to destroy the economy and watering off corruption. That was their daily meal. It was very difficult under that situation. Madam Speaker, we are just coming out of a field of sinners. It was very difficult for us to live in this country of ours. Madam Speaker, the president even indicated before he became the Republican president that the moment he is going to be announced a winner here in this country, the Kwacha will appreciate. And the moment he was announced a winner of this Republican country, the Kwacha appreciated to about a levels of about 17 kwacha per dollar. This is what happened. But during the time of PF, the kwacha was almost depreciating on a daily basis, sometimes on a minute basis. This is what we experienced under PF. And during a PF rule, Madam, the president, when he was campaigning, when we were being ruled by tyrant dictators, he did say that when we form government, we are going to improve education. This is what the president has done. The president promised, even in his last year's speech, he promised us that he is going to introduce free education, and this is what is there in this country. We are seeing now free education, which we didn't see under PF. He promised to increase CDF from 1.6, and this is what we are seeing in this country. Madam Speaker, the president, this time around, is saying that our only focus right now, the biggest focus, no, the biggest problem right now is to bring down the elephant in the room. And this elephant is the debt crisis, which was created, no, left by the PF. Yeah. And this time around, they are busy jumping here and there that we have made so many things. We have what? We have built roads, we have built houses, but all those things which the PF built, it is the UPND government, Yakainde Chilema and his team, who are going to pay back. Thank you so much. Madam Speaker, under the PF rule, our children, no, I'm already given. Our children were not given, NRCs during a PF rule. In Wengo alone, to get an NRC, somebody could take about one month, sometimes 3 or 4 months. But in other places, people are managing to get their NRCs within 5 or 10 years. Even underage, people could get NRCs. This is the situation where we're coming from. We are coming from a swimming pool of heavy sinners who were just swimming in sins. Those are the people who ruled us, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it was very difficult to live, in this country.
Order. I think the issue of using sinners is not. Can you withdraw the word use sinners?
Madam Speaker, I thank you. Let me not use sin. Let me not use sins. Madam Speaker.
Withdraw and your time is up.
Madam, let me withdraw the word sin.
Thank you.
And the time is up. I apologize, Madam,
to
indicate that the criminals are sinners. They are just criminals. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Even the use of the word criminals, Honorable Member. Next time I won't call on you. Honorable Member, Honorable Likando Mfalali, 4 minutes.
Madam Speaker, I was pleading maybe I could yield my 4 minutes to my young brother, Honorable Sesheke, since maybe I've only picked 2.
Honorable Member for Sesheke.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and thank you so much to the mover of the motion. And I extend my thankfulness also to the President, President Hakainde Hichilema, for having proven to the world, not just the people of Zambia, that is indeed a leader who this continent in this world, not just Zambia, deserves to have. Madam Speaker, the President's address, the SONA, to this country touched a lot of aspects that are bordering on the welfare of this country, as well as the livelihood of our people, and the inclusiveness that this country so much desires in terms of governance. Madam Speaker, the President, in his address, he talked of Constituency Development Fund, Madam Speaker, and the prudent use of resources, which, Madam Speaker, we have seen from the little part of CDF that has been released so far. Speaking for myself, Madam Speaker, in my constituency, we have managed to bridge the gap in terms of infrastructure under the education sector, as well as under health sector. Madam Speaker, the new Dawn administration has brought not just freedom, but good environment to our people, in as much as expressing oneself freely is concerned, in as much as belonging to any opposition party of your choice is concerned, in as much as cladding on any party regalia without being beaten by perceived cutters of any party. Madam Speaker, this is what the people of Zambia fought for, and this is what the people of Zambia wanted. Madam Speaker, we have seen in the past where illicit financial flows was order of the day, to an extent that we even defaulted to pay the loans that we accrued as a nation. The UPN administration, under the able leadership of President Hakainde Hichilema, in 1 year, it has proven not just to the people of Zambia, but globally, that indeed Zambia is in the Champions League. President Hakainde Hichilema has managed to negotiate with the creditors, as well as meeting the IMF conditions, Madam Speaker, to an extent that today we can feel the warmth of living in an environment where livelihood is enabling. Madam Speaker, the cost of living is going down. The exchange rate today, Zambian kwacha, is rated one of the strongest currencies in this country, under 1 year. Madam Speaker, this is the kind of leadership that the people of Zambia should have had for a very long time. But it's unfortunate that when God is preparing you for greatness, Madam Speaker, He makes you pass through difficult times like the difficult times that we passed during the PF regime. But today, Madam Speaker, we are happy that we can have again a kind of environment where the cost of living has gone down, the exchange rate has gone down. Madam Speaker, the inclusiveness in terms of development and the inclusiveness in terms of scattering resources in the country, Madam Speaker, can be exhibited in the manner in which CDF has been disemboweled. We haven't been selective, Madam Speaker. President Hakainde hasn't been selective. He has given CDF to all corners of this country, Madam Speaker. I thank you.
Member, thank you. The independents few left out. They are asking for 4 minutes. One independent member to wind up debate on this. Honorable member for Bwana Mkubwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing us also to just comment on the presidential speech. Let me thank the mover of the motion. Madam Speaker, I'll just touch on 2 things quickly. Let me, Madam Speaker, look at the issue of debt crisis, as well as the issue of the broken economy, which the President did mention. Madam Speaker, to run a financial sector, there are certain accounting fundamentals which need to be in place to ensure that the economy thrives. Madam Speaker, it's not rocket science that the economy is performing well. I think it's a notorious fact that we can see, all of us, that inflation has gone down and our kwacha is performing well. You don't need to be told, but you need to see, and this is what we are seeing. So that is a propensity which is making sure that this economy is moving forward. Madam Speaker, The finance minister has put in certain fundamentals which even the IMF has approved our, our bailout package. The IMF director did appear before our committee, and Madam Speaker, she told us one fundamental principle to say you are in a debt distress, and as a country, you need to bring yourselves out. You need to dig yourselves out. How do you achieve that, Madam Speaker? It's by putting in certain fundamentals to ensure that now you achieve that. Because as a country, to achieve that bailout package, we need to be on a going concern. That means we are able to cut sector and go to the debt crisis. Debt, Madam Speaker, even as you borrow, even at the household level, you cannot borrow more than you are able to pay. It's important that these two are equated, even at the detriment of development. You need to ensure that you are afloat. Because if your assets and your revenue can't support your credit or your liability, then you are in their distress. So it's important that those fundamentals are looked at. Madam Speaker, let me quickly comment on the restructuring of the petroleum subsector. I come from an area where there's Indeni in my constituency. And Madam Speaker, it's important also to balance. If an asset is not making profit, even if it's a national asset, we need to re-evaluate and ensure that we move at a trajectory where we can make profit. The importing of feed, which is crude, to be refined at Indeni, the government has been making losses. Not now, Madam Speaker, but from inception, the past years. Do we still need to push in money there at a detriment of Zambian people? We can rechange the business model. What is important is to ensure that our people don't lose jobs. Our people are taken care of. So I'm urging the new Dawn government, even with the new business model, that our people can be accorded
Your time
that.
is up.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Unfortunately, thus far we can go with the honorable members of the back bench. Now we have to move to the front bench. We start with the Honorable Minister of Copperbelt Province.
Madam Speaker, as His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, President of the Republic of Zambia, stated, his speech came off the backdrop of the first anniversary of the New Dawn administration. On behalf of the people of Copperbelt Province, I am therefore grateful for the unflinching support given to our leadership by the Zambian people during the successful first year in office. The theme for my address today, just like in the President's address, was we'll be working together towards socio-economic transformation, stimulating economic growth for improved livelihoods. Let me start with the mining situation in our province. Madam Speaker, I wish to assure this House and the nation that as a province, working with the Ministry of Mines and Mineral Development and other relevant departments, we are deeply concerned with the welfare of our miners, whom we found in uncertain circumstances due to the manner the previous administration handled Mupane copper mines and Konkola copper mines. As you are aware, government recently appointed a receiver for KCM to enhance the prudent management of the mine which was liquidated. Soon this matter will be resolved. This will further enhance leverage investor confidence, which was lost due to mismanagement and recklessness by the previous government. Implementation of CDF funds. Madam Speaker, the people of Copperbelt Province are delighted with the enhanced Constituency Development Fund from a partly 1.6 million to 25.7,
by the new Dawn administration within 1 year of being in office. This is not a minor achievement. Without segregation, Madam Speaker, these funds have been disbursed to all constituencies without exception. Unlike in the past where the constituencies were held, which were held by the opposition members of parliament, were marginalized by the previous regime. As a result of increase in the CDF, the scope of programs and projects has also increased, thereby benefiting various cooperatives, youth groups, women groups, and students through empowerment funds and bursaries. All the activities, Madam Speaker, are intended to bring about unity and thereafter stimulate economic growth. As a province, therefore, we are grateful for the efforts of His Excellency, the President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. Law and order. Not long ago, Madam Speaker, violence in our markets and bus stations was not only known and culture. Our youths were handsomely rewarded by the previous government to unleash terror on their fellow citizens, merely for belonging to different political parties. As a result, members of opposition political parties were injured, maimed, shot at, beaten, and some to date have continued nursing their physical and emotional wounds, while others unfortunately died, leaving children orphaned. Gassing was the order of the day in our province. In addition, law enforcement agencies were abused to achieve the political objectives of the previous regime, leaving communities divided and the civil service polarized. This reduced investor confidence and severely dented the image of our country at home and abroad. However, on the same day that President Hakainde Hichilema was declared winner of the August 2021 general elections and reinforced by his consistent message of peace and unity, there is law and order throughout the country. For the first time, Madam Speaker, competing parties are campaigning freely in by-elections. Our women and youths are trading peacefully in markets, and there is no cadreism in bus stations. Recruitment of teachers and medical personnel in order to stimulate economic growth, the creation of employment is cardinal. For this reason, the new Dawn administration has already implemented measures to achieve these objectives. Madam Speaker, I'm talking about and presented recruitment of over 30,000 and 11,000 teachers and medical personnel countrywide. Payment of retirees. Madam Speaker, payment of retirees and personal emoluments to retired and serving civil servants. Madam Speaker, the plight of retirees and civil servants in terms of their personal and related emoluments have been in the heart of His Excellency, the President. For this reason, government disbursed 13.4 million, which has resulted in Copperbelt Province Administration paying 607 serving and retired civil servants all the outstanding arrears. The few cases that are yet to be paid can be attributed to minor administrative issues that will soon be sorted out. Madam Speaker, our government will leave no stone unturned in ensuring the vision of the President is not only fulfilled, but actualized to benefit all Zambians, regardless of whether of their affiliations and boundaries. Madam Speaker, the pronouncement of completion of Kafulafuta and Nkana water supply and sanitation has also alerted the people of Copperbelt, because that will sort out the issue of water blues in 4 districts, namely Mpongwe, Masaiti, Luansha, as well as Ndola districts. Our government is committed to leveraging the peace and tranquility that currently exists in our country to maximize the full potential of our population in not only making Zambia an economic success story, but a fountain of peace, unity, and prosperity. Madam Speaker, His Excellency the President has always emphasized that
what divides us must never be allowed to suppress what unites us. Madam Speaker, I know in the hearts of our colleagues in opposition, even if they can't say it, a president like His Excellency, President Hakainde Hichilema, who has been walking his talk since he was sworn in, is a president worth to be praised and supported by all meaning members of parliament in this house. But I know intrinsically, in their hearts of hearts, they are clapping for President Hakainde for his achievement. Madam Speaker, I thank you, and His Excellency the President has always emphasized that it is important to start pulling in the same direction. Madam Speaker, let me talk about the people of Copper Belt are delighted with also the constituency development funds from party 1.6 to 25.7. I want to mention that for the past few months, we have sent not less than 3,000 youths to go and do the skill in different fields, such as carpentry and other skills. This is the president who every Zambian should give total support. Madam Speaker, I also wanted to talk about the issue of morality. This is the president who has been preaching moral ethics to everybody. Madam Speaker, I want to say that we need to stand up and support President Hakainde Hichilema because of the achievements and the working of his stock in the past few months. The dollar, which was 24 kwacha, is now at 15.5. The growth rate of the economy, which was taken back to 2.8, negative 2.8, is now trading around 3%. The inflation, which was about 24%, is now about 9%. The prices for essential commodities, such as cooking oil, milk, sugar, salt, and several other things, are going down every moment. What more do we need? This is going to prove to be one of the best presidents this country will ever produce. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Northwestern Province.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm so pleased to be accorded an opportunity and the good people of Northwestern Province to add a voice on the motion of thanks for the presidential speech on the official opening of the second session of the 13th National Assembly, delivered to this August House on Friday, 9th September 2022 by His Excellency, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, President of this country, Zambia. Madam Speaker, the speech by the President gave confidence to the people of Zambia and Northwestern Province in particular. No doubt, Madam Speaker, the New Dawn administration has worked hard and scored numerous successes in various sectors within the short time we have been in power. Madam, allow me to thank His Excellency, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, the President of the Republic of Zambia, for clearly articulating issues in his speech. Madam Speaker, government has restored investor confidence, as can be seen by the many investors coming into our country. Northwestern Province in particular has seen First Quantum Minerals, FQM, approved $1.25 billion US investment in the Kasanshi mine. S3 expansion project, which was neglected for so many years, and $1 million investment in the Enterprise nickel project in Kalumbila. Madam Speaker, this investment is a clear demonstration of the new Dawn administration's clear plan to the investment world that Zambia is open for business and back in the Champions League. Madam Speaker, having said that, as you are aware, Zambia has got 5 big mines. Of the 3 situated in Northwestern Province. And Northwestern Province has been unlocked. Therefore, I want to assure my colleagues in Copperbelt Province that this government is doing things methodically. Very soon, Copperbelt will be unlocked. These 2 big mines, Mopani and KCM, will be unlocked. Just in 1 year, he has unlocked 3 big mines in Northwestern Province. Madam Speaker, the President explained in his speech the significant role that the Expanded Constituency Development Fund, CDF, has continued to play in the lives of our people. Madam, Northwestern Province has seen a number of students who have benefited from skills development and secondary school bursaries. Those who were unable to attend school due to lack of tuition fees are now able to attend. Madam, this is because the New Dawn government wants to see its citizens educated regardless of their tribe or political affiliation. Madam Speaker, the government is working hard to facilitate trade, including smooth clearance of goods through improvement and modernization of border infrastructure, and transforming them into one-stop border posts. Madam Speaker, for Northwestern Province, Kambimba and Kipushi border posts are earmarked for urgent modernization. Madam Speaker, the President expounded the need to ensure that no school-going child sits on the floor by the end of 2023. Government has embarked on an ambitious exercise to leverage the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, to locally source desks for schools so that local people can take full ownership for this immensely important exercise. For Northwestern Province, Madam Speaker, the government launched the 2,000 desks project, which is being spearheaded by Solwezi Trades Training Institute. This project, Madam Speaker, is meant to produce desks and at the same time build capacity and competencies of local artisans to produce school furniture. Madam Speaker, this project has so far seen 30 students enrolled in metal fabrication and 30 other students in carpentry and joinery. Madam Speaker, this is a clear demonstration of visionary leadership, and we are determined to ensure that by 2023, no pupil in Kasenseri, Kashinakas, Chinyamalitapi, indeed in Katontu, will be sitting on the floor while attending school. Madam Speaker, in the previous 2016-2021, in my constituency, Maninga, we used to see only one teacher in a school. But this time around, Madam Speaker, this government has recruited and the teachers are already on site, 30,000 plus teachers. So the people of Maninga and Northwestern Province are grateful with what this government, under the leadership of His Excellency, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, is doing. Madam Speaker, with these few words, let me thank once again the President and the entire New Dawn government administration for the successes recorded so far. Madam Speaker, it's plain for everyone to see. With these few words, I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Green Economy.
Madam Speaker, thank you for according me this opportunity to render my thoughts on the speech delivered by His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, President of the Republic of Zambia, on Friday, 9th September 2022, whose theme was working together towards socio-economic transformation, stimulating economic growth for improved livelihoods. The address by His Excellency set the tone of what is to be done to actualize the national aspirations in line with Vision 2030 of transforming our country into a prosperous middle-income nation. This entails inclusiveness in the socio-economic growth trajectory with positive impact on all the citizens of the country. Madam Speaker, the question is, how can this be achieved? The answer lies in the President's speech to this August House. Debt restructuring. Madam, once debt is restructured, it will pave way for investment in green technologies that support environmental sustainability. This is the only way our economy will be transitioned on a green growth pathway for improved livelihoods. In addition, this will lower the cost of capital, thus creating investment opportunities in areas such as smart agriculture, clean and renewable energy, and value addition to timber and other forest products. Value addition may require joint ventures to set up manufacturing industries for processing timber and other forest products, including manufacturing of desks in support of the free education policy that the New Dawn government mooted and is proud of. Madam Speaker, this Honorable House may recall how passionately the President spoke about environmental sustainability to ensure inclusive and sustainable development. I therefore wish to re-echo the statement given by the President regarding the urgency to reverse forest and land degradation. Madam Speaker, land comprises a range of biophysical components such as soil, water, flora and fauna embedded in a landscape shaped by its geomorphology and subjected to a climate that is often under different forms of anthropogenic manipulation. The aforesaid natural land attributes are generated over time, and if negative human endeavors remain unchecked, we risk losing natural habitats. Madam Speaker, in order to build resilience, my ministry, working in close collaboration with the Ministries of Agriculture, Fisheries and Livestock, continue to promote smart agriculture and sustainable livestock management. Further, my ministry will continue to support the agriculture, energy and water sectors by providing accurate weather and climate information to facilitate decision making, just like we did yesterday. Madam Speaker, we will also continue with the existing partnerships in supporting agroforestry by encouraging small-scale farmers to interplant with nitrogen-fixing plants that also prevent soil erosion and improve crop yields to ensure food security at household level. This will facilitate the reversal of the impact of climate change and promote resilient agriculture practices. Madam Speaker, some of these efforts to reverse and halt forest and land degradation are being done in partnership with the World Bank under such projects as Transforming Landscapes for Resilience and Development in Zambia, the TRALAD project, and the Ecosystem-Based Adaptation Program, among others. In recognition of the challenges of the various drivers of deforestation, my ministry is promoting restoration of forests through tree planting in deforested areas, afforesting new areas, and natural regeneration in degraded areas, while conserving the existing forests. This is being achieved through various stakeholders, including community-based approaches. This will ensure that efforts in strengthening climate change adaptation and mitigation are not negated to the periphery. Madam Speaker, government will continue to engage and cooperate with various stakeholders to ensure sustainable management of the environment, to forestall and reverse land degradation and reduce pollution, air, water, and land, including, very important, e-waste. To avert deforestation through charcoal production, my ministry is promoting beekeeping and sustainable use of other forest products, such as mushrooms. In addition, carbon trading is another avenue that will ensure preservation of forests, as there is a greater benefit in leaving the forest standing other than cutting them for charcoal and wood fuel. In order to facilitate environmental repair, government is supporting the recycling of waste. Private sector is especially invited to take its rightful share in this green field. Promotion of a circular economy will help in environmental repair, as it will facilitate, among others, reduction in the use of non-renewable resources, lowering of the carbon footprint, general reduction of waste, and creation of new job opportunities across the country. Madam Speaker, to support all these activities, government is in the process of reviewing and enacting various pieces of legislation to facilitate effective management of natural resources and reduce the negative effects of climate change, such as severe weather conditions, meaning frequent droughts and floods. In this vein, government is undertaking, number one, to review the National Climate Change Policy of 2016. Government is also reviewing the Forest Policy of 2014. It's also reviewing the National Policy on Environment of 2017 and reviewing the Meteorology Policy of 2013. What are the strategies? The Communication and Advocacy Strategy on Climate Change, which has been developed and translated in many different languages. And this is the strategy, Madam Speaker. Yesterday I called upon the members of parliament to study so that they help us disseminate this information. Development of the green growth strategy, which will ensure that we mainstream the green growth pathways in the entire economy. Development of a sustainable charcoal production and consumption strategy. On the legislation front, we are reviewing the Environmental Management Act of 2017. And basically in there, we will ensure that polluters pay penalties which will deter them from polluting further. That would be repeat offenders actually may even be jailed. So this is a clear warning to those who pollute recklessly that you come after them. Once the and also the review of the Forest Act of 2015 to ensure that the timber industry is better regulated. Once the revised legal framework is in place, citizens are expected to play a cardinal role in preserving the protected areas and sustainable management of the environment. Madam Speaker, it is therefore incumbent upon each one of us to take an active role in the fight against climate change by ensuring sustainable utilization of our natural endowment. I therefore call upon all members of this august House to be champions of sustainable management of natural resources in our various constituencies in order to achieve the aspirations of Vision 2030 and meet the sustainable development goals of conserving our natural resources. This will result in uplifting the living standards of our people. Again, Madam Speaker, I call upon my fellow members of parliament to really take issues of environmental sustainability, issues of pollution, issues of land degradation, because we face a crisis which may result in greater food insecurity, in a greater water insecurity, and in greater energy insecurity. This is very, very important. President Hakainde Hichilema's speech was indeed an inspirational speech, and he has further given a clear direction of how Zambia will be developed. Madam Speaker, on the economic front, the economy was not running. It had contracted 9 percentage points. It was on oxygen. When you look at where the economy is now, exchange rate improved. Medicines being bought now after leaving an empty coffer of medicines. This is as it should be. The president nailed the speech. We can only rally behind him to ensure that this country is developed. He means well. Madam Speaker, I thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Mines.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to contribute to the motion of the speech by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, which was delivered before this House during the official opening of the second session of the 13th National Assembly on Friday, 9th August 2022. At the onset, I would like to join all progressive colleagues who have applauded the speech delivered by His Excellency the President, a speech which was so inspiring, a speech which continues to set the path on which we want to ride in terms of delivering development to the people of Zambia. The President demonstrated to this House, and indeed to all the people, that our government, his government, is committed to transforming the economic fortunes of this country by prioritizing development in all spheres. And that is why, Madam Speaker, the President, like one who is rebuilding a house that was broken down, you start with the fundamentals to make sure that the pillars are standing strong, the pillars on which the economy can be improved. One of them is bringing inflation down, which was skyrocketing, and also stabilizing the currency of the country so that both those that are in formal jobs and informal jobs can be able to plan properly. Madam Speaker, his speech also emphasized the acceleration of the implementation of the socio-economic interventions which are aimed at stabilizing, repairing, and reviving the country's economy. Despite the new government inheriting the ailing economy, government, Madam Speaker, has within a year managed to put the economy back on track. And it is projected to grow at an average of 4%. Like I said, inflation has already been contained, putting it on course to the targeted 6 to 8% range. These and other main interventions, Madam Speaker, are being undertaken by government to ensure the people of Zambia receive attention in their quest to meet their aspirations of improved livelihoods. I want to dwell on the mining sector, Madam Speaker, being privileged to be at the helm of this ministry, that the President stressed that the mining sector is and shall continue to be the hub of the country's economic transformation agenda. And the New Dawn government, Madam Speaker, is well alive of the importance of the mining sector, and therefore government is already working on putting in place conducive policy, legislative and institutional frameworks aimed at fast-tracking the attainment of some of the following. Madam Speaker, Zambia is basically less than 50% mapped and explored. And as a government, we have set ourselves on a path to explore this country up to 100%. So we have put in place a robust program, an expensive program, I must say, but we are determined. We are not going to be deterred by the fact that this is an expensive undertaking, because we realize as a government that for us to make money, we have to spend money. And therefore, we have done this robust program, which we begin to roll out immediately Cabinet approves. Madam Speaker, one other important aspect that we are doing is the formalization of the artisanals and small-scale miners. This intervention, Madam Speaker, will firmly support the reorganization of the sector in ensuring improved access to markets, technology, and capital, among others. I want to announce to you, Madam Speaker, that our ministry has already put in place a committee of technocrats who have already done a report awaiting Cabinet approval on how the formalization is going to be done, both for gold and manganese. We realize, Madam Speaker, that this move will actually create a lot of jobs, both formally and informally. Madam Speaker, we as a ministry have also set ourselves on a path to regulate the mining sector. I want to announce to the nation through you, Madam Speaker, that the concept of the Mining Commission, which is going to be a regulator in the mining industry, is almost done, awaiting to be taken to Cabinet for approval. This is an important undertaking, Madam Speaker, because it will ensure that the Ministry of Mines will be almost present everywhere where mining activities are taking place. It is also going to help increase compliance in terms of taxes, in terms of also reduction of illegal mining activities. Madam Speaker, the Zambia Revenue Authority announced that out of the 2,000 licenses, only a handful are actually compliant. But through the commission, when it comes, Madam Speaker, it is going to increase levels of compliance, and the subsequent, it is going to increase revenue to the Treasury and also increase job opportunities for our people. Madam Speaker, also the mines and the mining policy of 2022 is almost done and awaiting Cabinet approval. We have revised the mining policy because it has to answer to the vision of the New Dawn government in terms of how the mining sector should contribute. Madam Speaker, and other intervention by the New Dawn government under the leadership of the President aimed at bringing life to the once vibrant sector include enhancing transparency and accountability in terms of issuance of licenses, and that is why our government decided to shut down issuance of licenses. And I want to announce to the nation that immediately the report is approved by Cabinet, we shall be opening the cadastre department so that we begin transparently issuing licenses. And our focus, Madam Speaker, is benefit to the Zambian people. That will be the focus of the New Dawn government. Madam Speaker, I want to say this. There are assertions that the New Dawn government is talking a lot. Yes, we have to talk so that we set the path for how we want to roll out development. I remember that the previous government, one of the reasons they were chucked out because one president was not talking to Zambians. But now we have a president that is from time to time talking to us, communicating to us, telling us how the country should move. A parent must always be instructive to the family. Sometimes he has to shout at the family, sometimes in a way that talks nicely to the family so that we know where this country is going to. So I want to applaud His Excellency the President for such a wonderful presentation to Parliament, and to us as ministers, as members of Parliament, that statement was instructive as to how we should work in terms of rolling out the development agenda for the New Dawn government. Madam Speaker, I know that my other colleagues have talked about Mopani and KCM. The statements that they have made are in tandem with what I would have said. So wait for us and watch the space as the mining sector lifts the economy of Zambia. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. In terms of planning, it appears we can't plan to the exact minute. Would have done with one more debate or response, but it appears this is where we end today. So what we'll do is ask the acting leader of government business to adjourn.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the House do now adjourn.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. Any debate? Any objection? The question is agreed to. The House is now adjourned.
Making way out of the chamber, signifying the close of business for this day and apparently closing week for the business. On the floor of the House was Mine Minister, Mr. Honorable Paul